Chapter 760. Yi Hao didn't just let the 90,000 soldiers learn the life and death array. Yi Hao also let the 1,000 peak demon emperors learn the life and death array as well. Yi Hao wanted to make good use of these 15 days. He didn't want to waste any chance for his soldiers to improve their strength. After training for 5 days, the soldiers finally grasped the basics of the life and death array. However, they still couldn't achieve the best result. Every day, Yi Hao personally supervised the soldiers so that they could continue to practice the life and death array. It wasn't until the 13th day that the soldiers were able to unleash half of the power of the life and death array. Although it was only half of the power, it increased the combat power of all the soldiers by 1-fold. Yi Hao also received news that the Yu clan's allied army would arrive at Hongtian City in about a day's time. Yi Hao didn't let the soldiers train anymore. Instead, he let them conserve their energy and wait for the arrival of the Yu clan's allied army. Reporting to the city lord, "We will arrive at Hongtian City in about a day's time." A clan head walked up to the clan head of Yu clan and reported, "What's Yi Hao doing in the direction of Hongtian City?" The clan head of Yu clan asked with a frown. According to the spies, the 90,000 soldiers under Yi Hao's command have been hiding in the city to train for the past few days. The clan head immediately replied, "Haha, what a joke! Could it be that Yi Hao really wants to use 90,000 soldiers to fight against our 650,000 soldiers? I'm guessing that Yi Hao was scared silly by our domain lord's reputation. It seems that Yi Hao will definitely lose this time." Hearing the clan head's words, the other clan heads all mocked him. This was because, in their opinion, using 90,000 soldiers to fight against 650,000 soldiers was simply a fantasy. One must know that these 650,000 soldiers weren't random soldiers. These 650,000 soldiers were the elites of the various clans. Their average strength was at the peak of the demon guards. There were also quite a number of demon generals. Furthermore, they had already investigated and found out that only a small number of soldiers under Yi Hao's command were at the peak of the demon guards. Most of the soldiers were only at the initial stage of the demon guards. In their opinion, Yi Hao's army was pitifully weak. Even if Yi Hao's 90,000 soldiers were all at the peak of the demon guards, they still didn't take them seriously. The head of house Yu didn't say anything, but the smile on his face revealed his current mood. He didn't take Yi Hao. After all, the difference of the Yi Hao clan's command Yi Hao's forces is est win-win. Realm Lord, when we arrive at Hongtian City, should we take the city in one fell swoop, or should we humiliate Yi Hao? One of the clan heads asked with a smile. Clan's city. To kill him. To kill Tiant. That's right. Doesn't that Yi Hao like to use experts to challenge him? We'll send out 650 devil emperors to humiliate him. Many of the patriarchs looked at the territorial lord with fawning expressions on their faces. They knew that the city lord hated Yi Hao to the core. After all, Yi Hao had killed a core disciple of Clan Yu and destroyed Hongtian City. It was a slap to the city lord's face in front of everyone. As the city lord, he couldn't tolerate it. As long as Yi Hao was humiliated, the more miserable he was, the happier the domain lord would be. Why wouldn't they want to do it? All right, we'll do as you say. Hearing the clan head's words, the city lord agreed. He also felt that if he killed Yi Hao, it would be too easy for Yi Hao. In his opinion, Yi Hao was just an ant in his palm. No matter what, Yi Hao wouldn't be able to escape from his grasp. He could play with Yi Hao however he wanted. Yi Hao didn't know what was good for him. Naturally, he had to humiliate him. Moreover, there were countless people watching. He had to vent his anger properly. In his opinion, this was a chance to unify the entire Rain Domain. Although he had destroyed many clans in the Rain Domain, Clan Yu's strength was greatly reduced. However, after so many years, Clan Yu's strength had already recovered. Therefore, he wanted to destroy all these clans in one fell swoop. The city lord glanced at the clan heads who were trying to curry favor with him. His eyes flashed with a cold smile. The next day, Clan Yu's army surrounded Hong Tian City. The city lord glanced at the tightly shut gates of Hong Tian City and ordered the soldiers beside him. Beat the drums and declare war. Dong, dong, dong. After receiving the city lord's order, a series of impassioned drum beats sounded. My lord, the enemy has declared war. Standing on the city wall, Yen Liang looked down at the 650,000 soldiers and reported to Yi Hao. Ignore them. Let them be for a while. Yi Hao looked at the enemy troops below. They didn't have any intention to attack. Yi Hao could guess what the enemy was planning. Dong, dong, dong. City lord, this. The drums had been beating for 2 hours, but Hong Tian City's gates were still tightly shut. There was no response. The 7 family heads all had dissatisfied expressions on their faces. One of them spoke with anger. Continue to beat the drums. I want to see how long they can hide in their shells. The city lord said with dissatisfaction. Hearing the city lord's order, the soldiers had no choice but to continue beating the drums. What's wrong with Yi Hao? Why isn't there any response? Could it be that Yi Hao is afraid and doesn't dare to open the gates to fight? He's still too young. Does he really think that he can hide forever? That's right. Facing the 650,000 soldiers, Yi Hao won't be able to escape. In the Yu clan's army, there were already many people who were impatient. They started to voice their dissatisfaction. The sound of the war drums continued from morning until noon. The Yu clan's army was already impatient. The crowd was already noisy. After all, the 65 soldiers had been standing in formation for the entire morning. Originally, the 65 soldiers were already exhausted when they arrived at Hong Tian City. They thought that they could humiliate Yi Hao, who knew that not only did they not humiliate Yi Hao, but they also stood there like idiots for the entire morning. After standing for the entire morning, many of them were already hungry. However, the gates of Hong Tian City were still tightly shut. My lord, are you still not going to fight? Yen Liang looked down at the messy army and asked Yi Hao. There's no hurry. Let's eat. Yi Hao waved his hand and said with a smile. What? Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone around Yi Hao was stunned. They were afraid that they had heard wrongly. Chapter 761. However, when they heard Yi Hao's order, although they didn't understand what Yi Hao wanted to do, they immediately started to cook. Not long after, smoke rose from the kitchen chimneys in Hong Tian City. Damn it, please don't tell me that they are cooking in the city. Disregard, this is blatant disregard. This isn't just disregard, I think that Yi Hao is provoking us. Governor, let's not wait anymore, let's attack. That's right, as long as we raise Hong Tian City to the ground, let's see if that brat still dares to be arrogant. Domain Lord, you've gone too far. You're looking down on us. As long as the governor gives the order, our 65 soldiers will sweep through Hong Tian City. When the 7 patriarchs saw that the situation in Hong Tian City was really like cooking, they were all enraged. After all, they were the patriarchs of the 7 great clans. Not only were they left alone for an entire morning, they were even being provoked. Shut up! Hearing the dissatisfied voices of the patriarchs, the governor shouted coldly. Hearing the governor's cold shout, everyone immediately quieted down and looked at the governor with fear. Be careful, it might be a trap. Let's wait and see. The governor didn't believe that there was really someone who could eat safely while being surrounded by 650,000 soldiers. Therefore, he guessed that this must be Yi Hao's plan. Therefore, he didn't need to do anything and just stayed here. This would definitely cause the morale of Yi Hao's subordinates to collapse. After all, it was easy to imagine the pressure that 90,000 people would have to bear when facing 650,000 people. He believed that Yi Hao must be feeling terrible right now. Hearing the governor's words, everyone quieted down and looked in the direction of Hong Tian City. "My lord, the food is ready." Yen Liang walked to Yi Hao and said, "Let the brothers eat and prepare for battle." Yi Hao looked at the Yu clan's army below and ordered Yen Liang. Yi Hao glanced at the soldiers standing on the city walls. They were all squatting down to eat. He couldn't help but say, "Brothers, we can't be so stingy. Let's eat. Although we won't let them eat, we should at least let them see." Hearing Yi Hao's words, the soldiers understood immediately. They stood up and looked down at House Yu's army and started eating. "Realm Lord, this." Seeing how Yi Hao's subordinates were enjoying the food, one of the clan heads couldn't take it anymore. That was because this was simply the greatest provocation. The crowd was in an uproar. Originally, they had all started to feel hungry. However, they were still able to endure it. However, the enemy was eating right in front of them, which made them even hungrier. How could they endure this? At this moment, the governor's face was ashen. He did not expect Yi Hao to be so arrogant and bold. He actually dared to eat while surrounded by 65 of his troop. Most importantly, he was eating right in front of him. If that wasn't the greatest provocation, what was it? "Everyone, get ready to attack." The governor could not take it anymore. He ordered coldly, "Governor, please don't. Our army is exhausted and hungry now. This is not the time to attack." An old demon reverend stepped forward and tried to persuade Suemo. The governor looked at him. He was an elder of House Yu. If it was someone else, he could ignore it. However, he had to give face to the elder of his own clan. Most importantly, the elder's words made sense. He turned around and saw that there were indeed quite a number of people, all of whom looked exhausted. "Retreat 3 kilometers. Start a fire and cook." The governor thought for a moment and said, "The domain lord is wise." That elder immediately said, "Lord, House Yu's army seems to be retreating." Yen Liang looked at the army below and said to Yi Hao. Yi Hao glanced at the soldiers and saw that they were almost done eating. He immediately gave the order, "Open the city gates and prepare for battle. Sound the drums. Dong, 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 dong." Upon hearing Yi Hao's command, the sound of war drums immediately resounded throughout Hongtian City. As for House Yu's army, they were shocked. They thought that Yi Hao's army would hide in the city and not dare to come out. Who knew that just as they were about to retreat and start eating, Yi Hao would actually prepare for battle. This damned Yi Hao! Looking at Hongtian City in front of him and the soldiers rushing out, one of the family heads scolded unhappily. That was because he had a feeling that Yi Hao had been toying with them all this time. At first, Yi Hao had left them here for the whole morning. Then, when they were eating, he had to stay here and watch. Just as he was about to retreat and eat, Yi Hao actually sent out his army. At this moment, everyone in House Yu's army was enraged. "Yi Hao, you coward! You're finally willing to come out." One of the family heads pointed at Yi Hao angrily. "I'm sorry. I woke up a little late. I just finished my breakfast and opened the gates." Yi Hao said apologetically. "What did you say? You're courting death?" Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone, including the zone leader, felt like their lungs were about to explode from anger. This was a siege by 650,000 soldiers. How dare you say that you woke up late? You're looking down on the 650,000 soldiers. Although they knew that Yi Hao said it on purpose, they were still angry. However, they were still extremely furious because of Yi Hao's words. That was because Yi Hao was clearly not placing them in his eyes, and was openly provoking them. "Yi Hao, you little brat! Don't you like to send out experts to challenge us? I wonder if you still dare to do it today?" One of the family heads stood out and questioned angrily. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Yi Hao sneered in his heart. His guess was right. These people wanted to use the 650 demon emperors to humiliate him again. But this time, they were destined to miscalculate. "Good lad, you've got guts. I wonder if you like to fight in groups or one-on-one." One of the family heads saw that Yi Hao agreed and sneered. "Time is precious. Let's fight in groups." Yi Hao looked at the sky and said, "Ha ha ha, since you're courting death, don't blame us." Hearing Yi Hao's words, they weren't angry. Instead, they laughed proudly. Because they knew that Yi Hao wouldn't be able to be so arrogant in a while. "All demon emperors, go out and fight." The zone leader squinted and said in a low voice, "Yes." Immediately, 650 demon emperors appeared in front of the two armies. Each of them released their cultivation, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't know that they were demon emperors. The territorial master and the other patriarchs all had smug looks on their faces. However, to their surprise, Yi Hao's expression didn't change. Chapter 762. My lord, what should we do? There are too many demon emperors on the other side. Yan Liang didn't know that Yi Hao had 1,000 pinnacle demon emperors, so he asked worriedly. "Yi Hao, little brat, I heard that you have a lot of demon emperors under you. Bring out all your demon emperors then." One of the family heads sneered at Yi Hao. "That's what you said. You won't regret it," Yi Hao said with a smile. "Ha ha ha. Regret? Why would I regret it?" The family head looked as though he had heard the funniest joke in his life when he heard Yi Hao's words. "I was afraid that you didn't have enough demon emperors to kill." The family head sneered disdainfully. "Ha ha ha." The family head's words caused the group of demon emperors to roar with laughter. "Go out and leave no one alive," Yi Hao said suddenly when he saw the laughter of the demon emperors on the other side. "Remember the old rules." "Yes." The pinnacle demon emperors hidden in the crowd rushed out immediately when they heard Yi Hao's order. "How can there be so many of them?" The smiles on the faces of the family heads froze immediately. They widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw 1,000 demon emperors suddenly appear. Didn't Yi Hao only have 200 demon emperors under him? The domain master's expression changed. "Yi Hao, you cheated again." A family head pointed at Yi Hao angrily. "What did I cheat?" Yi Hao looked at the family head as though he was looking at an idiot. "You." The family head was at a loss for words. Yi Hao hadn't said how many demon emperors he had. The fact that Yi Hao had 200 demon emperors under him was something that they had found out by themselves. This could only mean that their spies were incompetent. They couldn't even find out the exact information. However, they couldn't blame Yi Hao. My lord actually hid his strength again. The Yu family alliance wasn't the only one who was shocked. All of Yi Hao's subordinates were shocked too. This was because they all believed that Yi Hao only had 200 devil emperors under him. They didn't understand where these 800 devil emperors had come from. "Song Yin, you will be in charge of the army." Yi Hao looked at the Nephilim emperors as though they were piles of experience points. How could Yi Hao bear to let him go? He gave Song Yin an order and rushed forward. "My lord, catch!" Seeing that Yi Hao had joined the battle, a Peak Devil Emperor immediately threw a third-order Devil Emperor to Yi Hao's feet. Raining sword. Yi Hao smiled as he looked at the third-order Devil Emperor below him. "Ding dong, congratulations to host for killing a third-order Demon Emperor. Congratulations to host for obtaining 30,000 experience points." Swaying Rain Sword, how does this kid know it? The region leader looked at Yi Hao with a pale face. He actually used House Yu's Swaying Rain Sword. And the one he killed was the Demon Emperor of House Yu. He was so pissed that he almost spat out blood. "Domain leader, we can't let this kid kill like this. These are our backbone." Seeing that the Devil Emperors were suppressed by Yi Hao's subordinates, the family heads looked at the domain leader anxiously. Let the Devil Venerables take action. At this moment, the domain leader couldn't be bothered to care about his reputation and directly ordered. "Yes." Upon receiving the domain leader's order, the Devil Venerables took action immediately. The Devil Venerable's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. In an instant, a powerful aura surged towards the Devil Emperors. In the blink of an eye, several Peak Devil Emperors were sent flying. "Little bastard, you want to play with me? You're too inexperienced." The domain leader looked at the peak devil emperors who were sent flying and sneered. Set up the formation. Yi Hao didn't expect the domain leader of Rain Domain to be so despicable and dishonest. It was a chaotic battle between devil emperors, but he suddenly sent devil venerables to take action. However, Yi Hao couldn't be bothered to argue with the domain leader of Rain Domain. Upon hearing Yi Hao's order, many peak devil emperors instantly set up the life and death formation and joined forces to attack the devil venerables. Why do I feel that their strength seems to have increased? I seem to have the same feeling too. What the hell is going on? At the beginning, more than 20 devil venerables who were still domineering had a slight change in expression at this moment, because each of them had to face the attacks of more than 10 peak devil emperors. However, what shocked them was that these people cooperated very well. Moreover, there was a strange energy that increased the combat strength of these peak devil emperors. Even for them, their attacks had become extremely strenuous at this moment. This is a military formation. The domain leader looked at those peak devil emperors who cooperated well and had a sudden increase in combat strength. His face was full of disbelief. This was because military formations had appeared tens of thousands of years ago. Every kind of military formation was a very powerful existence. The strength of every country was related to the military formation, because even if the strength of the army wasn't strong, the combat strength of a strong military formation would also increase significantly. Therefore, the heroes and geniuses of that era weren't determined by their strength. Instead, it was determined by who controlled more military formations and who invented more military formations. That person would become the target of competition among the major forces. However, no one knew why, after tens of thousands of years, the civilization of military formations had declined. Very few people knew about military formations. However, this couldn't cover up the brilliance of military formations. However, there were still many major forces that had military formations. For example, Tianyuan Kingdom had a first-class military formation. As the domain leader, he had naturally seen it. However, that military formation was firmly in the hands of the royal family of Tianyuan Kingdom. No one could spy on it at all. That military formation was also used by the most powerful troop of Tianyuan Kingdom. That troop was disdainful, and had also become the trump card troop of Tianyuan Kingdom. The strength of that military formation made him very envious. However, the domain leader found that the military formation used by Yi Hao seemed to be more powerful than the military formation of Tianyuan Kingdom. How good would it be if this military formation fell into my hands? The domain leader looked at Yi Hao with a trace of greed in his eyes. Little bastard, hand over the military formation. The domain leader moved and directly attacked Yi Hao. Yi Hao was originally killing the demon emperor when he suddenly felt his mind freeze. Oh no! Be careful, my lord. Song Yin was the first to discover the domain leader's action. The domain leader's cultivation level was revealed. He was a peak demon venerable. Song Yin was extremely anxious as he sped towards Yi Hao. However, he couldn't catch up with the domain leader at all. Boy, if you don't want to die, hand over the military formation. The domain leader saw that he was about to catch Yi Hao and a victorious smile flashed on his face. Be careful, my lord. The peak demon emperor beside Yi Hao saw that Yi Hao was in danger and immediately stood in front of Yi Hao. How dare a mere ant like you act so rashly? The domain leader snorted coldly as killing intent appeared in his eyes. The power in his body surged and directly blasted the peak demon emperor. Bang! Chapter 763. Do you think you are a match for me? Unexpectedly, the territorial leader suddenly gave up on attacking Yi Hao. A long sword suddenly appeared in his hand and he attacked Song Yin, who had come to rescue Yi Hao. Sweeping Rain Sword. The territorial leader's sweeping rain sword had reached the level of perfection. It was hundreds of times stronger than Yi Hao's sweeping rain sword. After all, the territorial leader's cultivation level was higher. Hence, the sweeping rain sword created a huge force and attacked Song Yin. So strong, I am no match for him. Song Yin's expression changed. Although his cultivation level was the same as the territorial leader's, his talent and martial skills were much weaker than the territorial leader's. After all, he was not a famous general in history. He did not have the powerful talent that Yan Liang and the others had. However, the territorial leader was able to become the territorial leader. His powerful talent and strength were naturally not something that ordinary people could compare to. After all, the territorial leader was the #1 genius of the Rain domain. Hence, the difference between Song Yin and the territorial leader was immediately apparent. In the blink of an eye, wounds appeared on Song Yin's body, and he began to show signs of defeat. Haha, as long as I kill you, no one in the first city can stop me. The territorial leader looked at Song Yin and smiled proudly. Then, the territorial leader looked at Yi Hao. Little bastard, you have humiliated me time and time again. Today is the day you die. Is that so? Yi Hao was not afraid of Song Yin's threat. Instead, he smiled. Looking at the smile on Yi Hao's face, the territorial leader's heart tightened. Could it be that this kid still has a backup plan? However, when the territorial leader used his consciousness to scan Yi Hao's surroundings, he did not detect any aura that could threaten him. Let's get rid of him quickly. At the thought of this, the territorial leader's attack became more violent. I didn't want to use it, but it seems like I have no choice now. Yi Hao looked at the Demon Emperor summoning card in the space. The Demon Emperor summoning card was Yi Hao's life-saving trump card. Yi Hao did not expect to use the Demon Emperor summoning card so early. However, the rest of the Demon Emperor peak subordinates could not spare any effort. Song Yin was already showing signs of defeat. If he didn't use it now, Song Yin would be in danger. Yi Hao looked at the Peak Devil Emperor who had been attacked by the Domain Master in order to save him. His eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, Song Yin was once again heavily injured by the Zone Master. He spat out a mouthful of blood. You bastard! How dare you try to take me down with you? You're still too naive. The Dominator looked at the bloodstains on his chest and couldn't help but rage. It turned out that Song Yin knew that he was no match for the Domain Master, so he had completely given up on defense and wanted to injure the Domain Master. The Domain Master clearly did not expect Song Yin to be so crazy, so his chest was also injured. But to him, this kind of injury was nothing more than a superficial wound. Compared to Song Yin, it paled in comparison and was not even worth mentioning. My lord, run away quickly. I'll stop him. Song Yin rushed towards the zone leader again and shouted at Yi Hao at the same time. Seeing Song Yin's appearance, Yi Hao's subordinates all broke out in cold sweat for Song Yin. After all, they all knew how powerful Song Yin was. He was a peak Devil Emperor. But they did not expect that even Song Yin was no match for the zone leader. Indeed, the zone leader's reputation was not just for show. So at this moment, they couldn't help but think about Yi Hao's safety. After all, everyone knew that the zone leader's target was Yi Hao. As long as Song Yin was defeated, the next person to be attacked would definitely be Yi Hao. And if Yi Hao died, their first city would be completely finished. So at this moment, all of Yi Hao's subordinates looked at Yi Hao worriedly. The zone leader is mighty. The zone leader is mighty. The zone leader is mighty. Wipe out the first city. Kill him. On the other hand, the soldiers of the Yu family's allied army all shouted excitedly when they saw how powerful the zone leader was. At this moment, they couldn't wait for the zone leader to quickly kill Yi Hao. Because of this Yi Hao, they had been standing outside Hong Tian City for the entire morning. System, help me summon the Devil Emperor. Yi Hao immediately said to the system. Ding dong, do you confirm the use of the Devil Emperor summoning card? The Devil Emperor summoning card can only be used once. Time limit, 10 minutes. Use. Ding dong, Congratulations to the host for successfully summoning Li Yuanba. What? Li Yuanba was summoned. Even if this was a time-limited summoning card, Yi Hao was still slightly shocked. After all, everyone on Earth knew how powerful Li Yuanba was. He was an absolute powerhouse. Although this was the Xingwu world, Li Yuanba's powerful talent would definitely crush all opponents of the same level. Why does it seem like there's an idiot over there? Yeah, look at his appearance. He's exuding an aura of stupidity. He should be an idiot. Why is he heading towards the zone leader? Is he looking for death? Which family is this idiot from? Why is he here to embarrass himself? At this moment, the soldiers of House Yu's army suddenly started discussing. This was because a fatty squeezed out from the middle of them. He was holding a hammer with both hands, but his face had a simple and honest smile as he ran towards Yi Hao. Because this person squeezed out from the crowd of House Yu's army, everyone naturally thought that he was an idiot from that family. Master! Li Yuanba ran towards Yi Hao and shouted at Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at Li Yuanba's appearance. He was probably 12 or 13 years old. He looked more mature, but his mind was not mature. That was why the way he acted made others think that he was an idiot. Get out of my way. You're blocking my way. Because the zone leader and Song Yin were fighting, the two of them were not far from Yi Hao. The zone leader and Song Yin's fighting position was blocking Li Yuanba's way. Li Yuanba said to the zone leader. Seeing Li Yuanba suddenly appear, the zone leader and Song Yin stopped fighting at the same time. But looking at Song Yin's expression, they knew that the situation was not good. Song Yin looked at Li Yuanba cautiously because he also saw that Li Yuanba ran over from House Yu's army. So Song Yin mistakenly thought that Li Yuanba was from House Yu or one of the 7 house head. I said, "You're blocking my way. Get out of my way," Li Yuanba said to the zone leader again. Everyone was shocked when they heard Li Yuanba's words. Which family is this person from? How dare he talk to the zone leader like that? Is he tired of living? Can't you see? That person looks like an idiot at first glance. Seems like it. Otherwise, why would he talk to the zone leader like that? Looking at Li Yuanba's appearance, the zone leader couldn't help but frown. Li Yuanba's words had no respect for him. Chapter 764. It's over. This fool has angered the zone leader. I'm afraid his family will be in trouble. I saw him walk out of the Wang family. Could he be from the Wang family? Nonsense. How could there be such a fool in the Wang family? But, he obviously walked out of your camp. I think I saw him walk out of the Wang family. But I don't think there is such a person in the Wang family. Being discussed by the crowd, the Wang family felt a little guilty. Because many of them had seen Li Yuanba walk out of their family. At this moment, the Wang family could not help but worry. Because if they offended the zone leader because of a fool, the Wang family would be in trouble. On the other hand, the people from the other clans had gloating expressions on their faces. The zone leader was also unhappy. Today, could it be that anyone who saw him dared to insult him? Now, even a fool dared to speak to him in such a tone. Coincidentally, this was an opportunity for him to take action against the fool's family. You say, what? Really? Who knew that when the zone leader called him a fool, the smile on Li Yuanba's face disappeared and he became angry. Looking at Li Yuanba's expression, the zone leader's face flashed a mocking smile. He looked at Li Yuanba's hands that were holding the twin hammers and said, "What, you want to attack me? You apologize to me." Li Yuanba's face was full of anger and his chest rose and fell violently. It was as if the zone leader's words had hit his soft spot. Is this fool crazy? How dare he ask the zone leader to apologize to him? So he is really a fool. That's the zone leader. Looks like this fool is finished. Let the zone leader apologize. I think blood will be spilled on the spot. Hearing Li Yuanba's words, everyone was shocked. It was as if they had heard the funniest joke. You're courting death. Sure enough, as everyone expected, the domain leader attacked. The long sword in her hand blasted towards Li Yuanba. You want to kill me? Seeing the zone leader's action, Li Yuanba frowned. Of course, fool. Hearing Li Yuanba's question, the zone leader's face was full of contempt and disdain. Since you want to kill me, I won't be polite either. Li Yuanba's face was filled with anger. Immediately, he threw 2 giant hammers forward. Li Yuanba easily used the 2 giant hammers to smash the governor's sword into pieces. Seeing this scene, the scene suddenly became terrifyingly quiet. Even those demon sovereigns who were in the midst of battle were shocked to see this scene. What happened? An idiot had actually shattered the domain leader's sword into pieces. We're not dreaming, are we? Everyone was thinking the same thing. Even the governor was dumbfounded and in disbelief as he stared at the shattered swords on the ground. That was because he knew his sword very well. It was the only demon exalted level spiritual artifact in the Rain domain. Most importantly, a spirit artifact was a watershed in the demon's supremacy level. In the ancient demon realm, the power of martial arts was not the most powerful. Above the power of martial arts, there was still spiritual power. However, it was extremely difficult to absorb spiritual energy. Even when he reached the peak of Demon Venerable, he had only just comprehended the existence of spiritual energy. Spiritual artifacts below the level of Demon Venerable could only be called pseudo-spiritual artifacts because these spiritual artifacts could only unleash the power of martial arts. On the other hand, Demon Exalted level spiritual artifacts could only unleash a small amount of spiritual energy. However, although the spiritual energy was small, its power was extremely strong. Therefore, this sword was his trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would never use the spiritual energy in the sword. He had also relied on the spiritual energy in his sword to catch his opponents off guard and kill countless powerful opponents. It could be said that this sword was extremely precious. However, it had now been destroyed by an idiot. This made his heart bleed. However, he was also shocked because Li Yuanba had shattered his sword with a single blow. The governor knew that he could not have done it. When Yi Hao saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. This was very Li Yuanba. In Yi Hao's opinion, only such a powerful Li Yuanba was worthy of Li Yuanba's reputation. The governor did not know what to say because he wanted to know Li Yuanba's identity and who he was. However, before he could say a word, what answered him was a giant hammer. No. Looking at the giant hammer coming towards him, the governor immediately let out a cry of panic. However, what made him puzzled was that he wanted to escape, but under the pressure of the giant hammer, he could not move at all. Under Li Yuanba's attack, the governor's head was instantly smashed into meat paste by the giant hammer. Then, the governor's body flew out like a kite with a broken string and landed in front of House Yu's camp. At this moment, everyone was completely shocked. The governor is dead. The governor is a demon venerable expert, the #1 person in Rain Domain. He was killed by a single blow. Oh my God, who is this person? How can he be so strong? It's over. It's over. Rain Domain is over, House Yu is done for. Everyone looked at Li Yuanbao in shock, with a trace of fear on their faces. After all, this was the person who killed a peak demon venerable with a single blow, the governor of Rain Domain. No one dared to imagine that Rain Domain's governor would fall one day, and he was killed by a single blow from a hammer. However, this scene was indeed happening in front of their eyes, and it shocked their hearts. Yuanba. Looking at Li Yuanba's strength, Yi Hao could not help but gulp. He could guess that Li Yuanba was strong, but he did not expect Li Yuanba to be this strong. He knew that Li Yuanba could definitely kill the governor. However, he did not expect Li Yuanba to smash the governor's longsword with a single blow and then smash the governor's head with another blow. From the beginning to the end, the governor did not even have a chance to resist. Looking at Li Yuanba's angry face, Yi Hao was really afraid that Li Yuanba would get angry and hurt Song Yin, who was beside him. That would not be good. Therefore, Yi Hao opened his mouth and shouted at Li Yuanba. Yuanba? This person is called Li Yuanba? How come I've never heard of him before? Yeah, such strong strength, we've never heard of him before. It seems like the governor of First City knows this person. Could it be that this strong person knows our master? At this moment, everyone heard Yi Hao calling Li Yuanba, and they all looked at Li Yuanba, wanting to see how Li Yuanba would react. Hearing Yi Hao calling him, Li Yuanba immediately acted like a child who had done something wrong. The anger on his face dissipated, and he smiled at Yi Hao embarrassedly. Master, Yuanba didn't want to kill him, he wanted to kill me, so I killed him. What? Master, did I hear wrongly? Did he call Lord? Chapter 765. After all, Li Yuanba was someone who could kill a territorial lord. However, no one had expected or dared to think that Li Yuanba was Yi Hao's subordinate. You did the right thing. Yi Hao looked at Li Yuanba and said with a smile. Yuanba, I have a mission for you. Yi Hao looked at the demon sovereigns of the various families. When Yi Hao's gaze swept across them, those demon venerables immediately felt guilty. After all, Li Yuanba was someone who could kill a territorial lord in an instant. To them, he was a huge threat. And Li Yuanba was Yi Hao's subordinate. They were really afraid that Li Yuanba would kill them all if Yi Hao gave the order. Kill them all. Yi Hao looked at the demon sovereigns and said to Li Yuanba. After all, Li Yuanba's summoning time was only 10 minutes. Now that he had used 2 minutes, there were only 8 minutes left. And Li Yuanba was so powerful. Yi Hao couldn't bear to waste it. Don't worry, my lord. I don't even need to use my full strength to kill this bunch of trash. Li Yuanba looked at the demon sovereigns with disdain. When the demon sovereigns saw Li Yuanba's gaze, they couldn't help but feel their legs tremble. Plop! Finally, one of the demon sovereigns couldn't resist the pressure in his heart and knelt on the ground. The demon sovereign looked at Yi Hao and quickly said, Lord Yi, I'm the head of the Wang family. I know I'm wrong. Please don't kill me. I'm willing to serve you as my master. The Wang family will serve you as our master. The head of the Wang family was very perceptive, because he saw that the territorial lord was dead and Yi Hao had Li Yuanba as his subordinate. He knew that the Yu family was finished. The territorial lord's position was gone. On the other hand, Yi Hao's identity was mysterious and he had Li Yuanba as his subordinate. Yi Hao's victory was certain. And if they went against Yi Hao, not only would they die, but the entire Wang family would be destroyed. As the patriarch of the Wang clan, he naturally had to consider the interests of the Wang clan. They didn't want the Wang family to follow in the footsteps of the Hong family. As for the people of the Wang family, when they saw the Wang family head kneeling down, they all knelt down one after another. The Wang family's remaining demon venerable expert also knelt at Yi Hao's feet. Take me as your master? But how can I believe that? Yi Hao sneered. Hearing Yi Hao's words, the Wang family head hesitated for a moment. However, he looked at Li Yuanba and the blood-stained hammer in his hand. The head of the Wang clan gritted his teeth and swore, I, Wang Li, swear on my cultivation realm that I will be loyal to Yi Hao from now on. If I betray him, I will be struck by lightning and torn to shreds. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for obtaining 4th Order Demon Venerable Wang Li Loyalty. 98. Congratulations to host for obtaining 70,000 experience points. After the head of the Wang family swore, the system's voice rang out in Yi Hao's mind. Yi Hao didn't expect Wang Li to swear such a ruthless oath. This was because an inner demon was an absolute nightmare for a cultivator. As long as an inner demon was born, one's cultivation realm would be crippled. In serious cases, one's consciousness would not be controlled and would become a killing machine. Otherwise, Wang Li's loyalty wouldn't have reached such a high level just because of an oath. This was because the moment he swore, This obsession was planted in Wang Li's heart. It would be fine if Wang Li didn't betray Yi Hao. However, as long as he did, this obsession would become an inner demon. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Wang Li to swear in order to survive. It could be seen that Li Yuanba had intimidated Wang Li greatly. Yi Hao nodded his head in satisfaction. However, his gaze landed on the other demon venerable of the Wang family. I, Wang Zhuo, swear. Seeing that the head of the Wang family swore, the demon venerable expert followed Wang Li's example and swore. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for obtaining third-order demon venerable expert Wang Li, loyalty. 97. Congratulations to host for obtaining 60,000 experience points. Yi Hao's gaze then landed on the demon emperors of the Wang family. In Yi Hao's opinion, he didn't care about those below the demon emperor level. However, he had to pay attention to those above the demon emperor level. Moreover, there were only two choices: submit or be destroyed. The demon emperors of the Wang family, who were kneeling on the ground, felt bitter in their hearts. They didn't expect that things would turn out like this. However, the head of the Wang family and the elders had already surrendered. With Li Yuanba around, they had no other choice but to swear the oath one by one. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for obtaining fourth-order demon emperor. Loyalty 96. Congratulations to host for obtaining 20,000 experience points. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for obtaining 8th-order demon emperor. Loyalty 40. Congratulations to host for obtaining 40,000 experience points. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for obtaining 5th-order demon emperor. Loyalty 98. Congratulations to host for obtaining 20,000 experience points. Ding dong! Congratulations to host for leveling up. Current level is 8th-order demon king. Right at this moment, the aura on Yi Hao's body suddenly changed. Those below the demon emperor level didn't notice it yet. However, those above the demon emperor level immediately noticed Yi Hao's change. Each and every one of their eyes were filled with shock. One had to know that everyone needed to go into seclusion and cultivate bitterly to break through. There were also a small number of geniuses who could break through in battle. However, those geniuses were few and far between. They must have terrifying talent. However, Yi Hao was even more terrifying than breaking through in battle. He could actually break through just standing there without moving. Yi Hao's inexplicable breakthrough made them doubt their lives. Yi Hao looked at everyone's shocked expression and knew what everyone was thinking. However, he was even more certain that if these people didn't submit to him, they must be exterminated. After all, breaking through while standing without doing anything was simply too heaven-defying. If this spread out, it would definitely bring trouble to him. This couldn't be blamed on him. Although he quickly retracted his aura when he broke through, there was still a leak. He could hide it from those below the Demon Emperor level, but he couldn't hide it from those above the Demon Emperor level. Thinking of this, Yi Hao's killing intent involuntarily surged. That's right. Yi Hao's killing intent was aroused. Plop, plop, plop. The moment Yi Hao's killing intent was released, many Demon Emperor powerhouses from those families knelt on the ground one after another. They all knew that if they didn't express their loyalty to Yi Hao today, most likely none of them would be able to leave this place today. The Demon Emperors who knelt on the ground hurriedly swore to express their loyalty. When the various family heads saw this scene, none of them dared to step forward to stop it. Instead, they looked at this scene with complicated expressions, and the ones who were most shocked at this moment were none other than the soldiers of the two legions. They didn't expect that the 7 major families allied with the Domain Lord's family to encircle and annihilate Yi Hao. The final outcome would actually develop like this. Chapter 766. At this moment, the people who admired Yi Hao the most were none other than the 90,000-plus soldiers. They had originally thought that no matter what, there would definitely be a fierce battle today. However, there was no fierce battle. Instead, everyone knelt in front of Yi Hao and wanted to surrender. Yi Hao looked at the duration of Li Yuanba's summoning and said, "Those who surrender will be spared. Those who do not surrender will be killed." Humph! Suddenly, Li Yuanba snorted and released all his strength. Gulp! Everyone could feel the powerful aura coming from Li Yuanba, and they swallowed their saliva. Even the family heads were no exception. They did not doubt that Li Yuanba could easily kill all of their demon venerables without much effort. "Master, do you need me to deal with them?" Li Yuanba walked to Yi Hao's side and said with an innocent smile. Hearing Li Yuanba's words, the family heads and experts could not help but shiver. "I, Zhang Kai, swear on my cultivation realm that I will be loyal to Yi Hao from now on. If I betray him, I will be struck by lightning and torn to pieces. I, Li Wu, swear on my cultivation realm that I will be loyal to Yi Hao from now on. If I betray him, I will be struck by lightning and torn to pieces. I, Yuan Tian, swear on my cultivation realm that I will be loyal to Yi Hao from now on. If I betray him, I will be struck by lightning and torn to pieces." Hearing Li Yuanba's words, the family heads did not dare to hesitate and quickly swore. After all, Li Yuanba alone could crush all of their demon venerables. The 1,000 demon emperors under Yi Hao's command could crush all of their demon emperors. Therefore, no matter what, there was no room for them to resist at this moment unless they wanted to die. Is this still our high and mighty family head? Are these still the arrogant geniuses of our family? Why is he completely disregarding his dignity in order to survive? When the soldiers of the various clans saw this scene, their hearts completely crumbled. Because all of them regarded powerhouses above demon emperors as their goals and idolized them. But now, when he saw the experts and geniuses of the clans, he couldn't help but wonder. One by one, they rushed to swear an oath to Yi Hao to show their loyalty. He was afraid that, if he was a step late, he would be killed by Li Yuanba. "You traitors! How dare you betray your master for glory? House Yu won't let you go," House Yu's demon sovereign said angrily. One had to know that while the region leader was dead, House Yu still had 10 demon sovereigns left. "Kill!" Yi Hao ordered Li Yuanba. "Die for me!" Li Yuanba roared, and then threw out a huge hammer, directly smashing on the body of the demon venerable who spoke. That demon lord was unable to dodge at all, and was smashed into meat paste. The crowd went into an uproar. Many people could not help but take a few steps back in fear. They looked at Li Yuanba with eyes full of fear and shock. They knew that Li Yuanba was strong, but it seemed that this was a little too strong. A demon venerable powerhouse was killed without the slightest effort, just like that. "What? Is House Yu strong?" Yi Hao's tone was cold as he looked at the remaining demon sovereigns. "We." Looking at Yi Hao's murderous eyes, the demon sovereigns of House Yu wanted to say something, but the words were stuck in their throats. They could not speak at all. "I'll give you 30 breaths to consider. If you don't surrender, then don't blame me." Yi Hao finished and ordered Li Yuanba. "Yuanba, get ready to attack." "Yes." Li Yuanba walked to the meat paste and picked up his hammer, staring at the demon sovereigns of House Yu like a tiger watching its prey. As for the other family heads and elders, seeing this scene, they couldn't help but feel incomparably comfortable. Because in the past, they had been oppressed by House Yu. Now that House Yu was defeated, naturally, they were very happy to see it. As for the demon emperors of House Yu, it was too difficult for them. Because under Li Yuanba's threat, they really wanted to surrender. But because of the demon sovereigns of House Yu, they did not dare to do so. They could only stand where they were. 20 seconds passed quickly, but the demon sovereigns of House Yu were still hesitating. After all, House Yu was the overlord of Rain Region. Now that they were being threatened by someone, they really did not want to show their loyalty. "Kill." Who knew that Yi Hao would suddenly open his mouth? Everyone was confused when they heard Yi Hao's words. Because Yi Hao said 30 breaths, but only 20 breaths had passed. But Li Yuanba didn't care about that. The hammer in his hand immediately danced. In just one clash, 2 demon sovereigns had fallen on the spot. Why? It's not time yet. The demon sovereigns of House Yu immediately shouted in panic. But Yi Hao did not care. Li Yuanba continued to hammer one by one. In the blink of an eye, 9 demon sovereigns of House Yu fell on the spot. At this moment, the heads of the other houses looked at Yi Hao with fear in their eyes. They didn't think that Yi Hao was really willing to kill these demon sovereigns. They couldn't help but feel lucky that they made the right choice. They did not doubt that if they had made the wrong choice, their lives would have been taken. And Yi Hao did not even wait for 30 breaths to kill the demon sovereigns of House Yu. This made them realize that the Lord they chose to rely on was definitely not a merciful person. Instead, he was someone who did not follow the rules and was ruthless. Everyone knew that if they followed Yi Hao in the future, they would have to be more careful. It's your turn. Do you want to live or die? I'll give you 30 breaths too. Yi Hao looked at the remaining demon sovereigns of House Yu and said, "Plop, plop, plop. We're willing to surrender." The demon sovereigns did not dare to delay. The 10 demon sovereigns were the best outcome. They did not know how long Yi Hao would give them to consider. If he gave the order to kill them within 3 breaths, they would not even have a place to cry even if they wanted to. Seeing everyone's reaction, Yi Hao was happy. Everything he did was not in vain. Yi Hao looked at all the demon sovereigns who had surrendered. He had also reached level 9 Demon King. His face was filled with satisfaction. Because he was the biggest winner in this war. He took over Rain region from House Yu without any losses. If this news were to spread to the other regions, it would definitely shock everyone. After all, House Yu's army had attacked Yi Hao. That news had spread to the surrounding regions. But no one would have thought that the final winner would be Yi Hao. Chapter 767. Why aren't you greeting the Lord? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the house heads immediately shouted to their clansmen. Because they were afraid that if they weren't careful, Yi Hao would be displeased, and that would be troublesome. Many disciples and guards heard the house heads say so, and they all knelt down. One by one, they immediately knelt on the ground. "Greetings, my lord!" Roar, roar, roar. Seeing this scene, hundreds of thousands of people knelt down in front of Yi Hao. Yi Hao's army of 90,000 people roared excitedly. "Lord, there's something I don't know if I should say." Suddenly, House Head Wang spoke, looking at Yi Hao. "What is it?" Yi Hao asked when he saw the serious expression on the Wang family head's face. "Lord, although the zone leader is dead, but the remaining strength of House Yu is still not to be underestimated," House Head Wang said worriedly. "Does House Yu still have many demon sovereigns?" Hearing House Head Wang's words, Yi Hao frowned. If House Yu only had a few demon sovereigns, he wouldn't be afraid. But he was worried that House Yu still had a large number of demon sovereigns, and even peak demon sovereigns. That would be troublesome. That's right, the zone leader only brought 1/3 of House Yu's experts this time. House Head Wang nodded. Yi Hao's heart tightened. He didn't think that House Yu's strength was beyond his imagination. He was already shocked when he saw that House Yu had 10 demon sovereigns, but he didn't think that these demon sovereigns were only 1/3 of House Yu's strength. This meant that House Yu had at least 20 demon sovereigns. If Li Yuanba could be used all the time, then he wouldn't have to be afraid of House Yu's demon sovereigns. But Li Yuanba's summoning duration was about to end. If he relied on these big houses, he could only recruit 14 demon sovereigns. This was definitely not House Yu's match. And he killed House Yu's zone leader and 10 demon sovereigns. Now, he was forcing House Yu's demon sovereigns to join him. Even if he didn't do anything to House Yu wouldn't let him go. "Does House Yu have a peak demon lord?" Yi Hao asked the head of House Wang. "My lord, as far as I know, there was only one person in the Rain domain who was a peak demon venerable. No. He was killed by Lord Yuanba." The head of the Wang family looked at Li Yuanba with respect in his eyes. My lord, you only need to ask Master Yuanba to go to House Yu, and I believe House Yu will surrender. The head of House Wang continued. After all, he had witnessed Li Yuanba's strength. He could easily slay 10 demon highnesses. Even if he killed 20 demon sovereigns, it probably wouldn't take much effort. Yi Hao smiled bitterly in his heart when he heard the Wang family head's words. Li Yuanba had a summoning time, but he couldn't tell these people. Suddenly, Yi Hao thought of something and looked at the heads of the houses. Since House Yu has a demon sovereign, then you all have one too, right? The heads of the houses were stunned when they heard Yi Hao's words. But the heads of the houses didn't dare to hide or lie. They immediately told Yi Hao how many demon sovereigns they had left in their houses. As expected, Yi Hao was delighted when he heard that the heads of the houses had demon sovereigns in their houses. But Yi Hao's face turned cold. How dare you? If I didn't ask you, would you still want to keep it a secret for your houses? The heads of the houses trembled when they heard Yi Hao's cold voice. They quickly knelt on the ground, indicating that they didn't dare to. They did have such thoughts before. After all, they were forced to swear an oath to submit to Yi Hao in order to save their lives. But as the heads of the houses, they were all cunning old foxes. Naturally, they wouldn't reveal all their trump cards to Yi Hao. Although they couldn't betray Yi Hao, they had their own thoughts. If they kept some of their demon sovereigns, then they wouldn't have to tie the entire house to Yi Hao. But they didn't expect Yi Hao to find out so quickly. And in the face of Yi Hao's questioning, they didn't dare to lie at all. My lord, I'll ask them to come over and swear an oath to submit to you. The head of the Wang house thought for a moment and said quickly. Me too. Seeing that the head of the Wang house had done so, the other heads of the houses didn't dare to play any tricks. I won't force them. I have my ways to deal with those who don't want to submit to me. Yi Hao could only scare the heads of the houses at this moment. After all, from what the heads of the houses said, there were at least a dozen demon sovereigns in these 7 houses. If these people submitted to him, then he wouldn't have to fear the remaining forces of House Yu at all. Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone was indeed frightened, and hurriedly shuddered. After all, they knew Yi Hao's methods. The 10 demon sovereigns of House Yu were killed because they hesitated and didn't submit to Yi Hao in time. My lord, don't be anxious. I'll send someone back to summon the demon sovereign's former experts immediately. The head of the Wang house immediately instructed Yi Hao and the demon sovereigns beside him. The other heads of the houses did the same one after another. This was because they were afraid that Yi Hao was temperamental and would suddenly get angry at them. That wouldn't be good. Everyone's gaze was on Yi Hao. No one realized that Li Yuanba, who had intimidated them, had disappeared at this moment. As expected, Yi Hao's deterrence was huge. In less than a day, the experts of the 7 houses who were demon sovereigns and above had already arrived at Hongtian City. One must know that the area of Rain Domain wasn't small. For these people to be able to arrive at Hongtian City in less than a day, it could be seen that these people had used all their strength to rush here. Why aren't you all swearing an oath to the Lord? Seeing Yi Hao walk out, the head of the Wang house immediately stood out and said. When everyone saw Yi Hao, they couldn't help but frown. This was because they saw that Yi Hao's cultivation was only at level 9 Demon King, and he didn't look old. What's going on? Is the head of the house crazy? He wants me to submit to such a person as my lord? That's right. Is the head of the house joking? Or has he been bewitched? A young brat wants me to submit to him as my lord? He must be dreaming. Everyone looked at Yi Hao with contempt in their eyes. This was because Yi Hao's image was a little different from what they had imagined. On their way here, they all thought that Yi Hao was a ferocious expert. However, although Yi Hao looked delicate and handsome, they couldn't associate him with a ferocious person. Even if his appearance could be ignored, Yi Hao's cultivation was only at level 9 Demon King. Any one of the people here had a higher cultivation than Yi Hao. Chapter 768. Beneath Yi Hao's feet were 11 broken corpses. Whose corpses are these? What, this kid wants to scare us with these corpses. But why does that person's clothes look like the leader's clothes? Hearing that person's words, everyone's gaze landed on the leader. Because the leader was the leader of a region, his status was extremely high, and his clothes were personally bestowed by the Tianyuan Kingdom's emperor. Every year, every family would have a competition, and the leader would appear. Naturally, they would recognize the leader's clothes. Could it be that the leader is really dead? At this moment, everyone couldn't help but gulp. The contempt in their eyes towards Yi Hao had lessened by quite a bit. I heard that House Yu sent out 10 demon sovereigns. Could those be the demon sovereigns from House Yu? Everyone immediately turned to look at the remaining 10 corpses. They were all badly mutilated, and they looked terrible. They could imagine how pitiful they were when they died. More importantly, how powerful must that expert be to be able to cause such harm to the field master and the others? The more they thought about it, the more frightened they became. Why are you looking down on me, Yi Hao? Yi Hao looked at the crowd, his eyes filled with fear. He couldn't help but chuckle as he asked. Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone's heart froze. Everyone retracted their gaze from the corpses and looked back at Yi Hao. They saw that Yi Hao's face was calm, and there was even a hint of a smile on his lips as he looked at them just like that. Yi Hao's calmness made them even more anxious. How dare you? Why aren't you swearing to the Lord? Do you want to end up like them? Suddenly, a few family heads stood out and shouted. Because they could see from the eyes of their own family members that these people were looking down on Yi Hao. But they knew that this kind of contempt was something that they couldn't have. Otherwise, if they angered Yi Hao, they wouldn't have a good ending. They were really afraid that Yi Hao would kill them all on a whim. If that happened, there was nothing they could do. Hearing the serious expression on their family head's face, everyone became even more curious. What did Yi Hao do to make their family head so afraid of Yi Hao? What? Do you need me to give you 30 breaths of time to consider? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the heads immediately thought of the scene where Yi Hao asked Li Yuanba to kill the demon sovereign from House Yu. One by one, they anxiously said to Yi Hao, "My lord, please forgive us. There's no need to give them time to consider. It's their honor to submit to you. All of you, listen to my orders. Quickly swear allegiance to the Lord, or you will be punished according to the clan rules." The few family heads looked at their clansmen who were still standing and immediately spoke with solemn expressions. Everyone trembled. They didn't understand why the patriarch was so afraid of Yi Hao that he even used the clan rules. Actually, the family heads didn't have any other choice. After all, they knew that Yi Hao was decisive and wouldn't be merciful. And the people in front of them were all experts from their clans. Although they weren't willing to submit to others, it was still better than losing their lives in vain. And because Yi Hao was here, they couldn't explain it to their clansmen. They could only use the clan rules to order them. Hearing the family head's order, although everyone was dissatisfied, they still obediently swore to Yi Hao. Seeing everyone's performance, Yi Hao nodded his head in satisfaction. Although they might be unwilling, as long as they swore, they wouldn't be able to betray him. Although he was forcing them, in this world where the strong preyed on the weak, he could only do so. Only by doing so could he protect his territory. And as long as he subdued these people, he could send his troops to House Yu and completely unify Rain Domain. After seeing everyone surrender, Yi Hao left. After all, there were still a lot of things waiting for him to settle in Hongtian City. After all, just the number of soldiers he had subdued was a total of 650,000. And these were all the elites of the various clans. Yi Hao wouldn't let them go to waste. Yi Hao planned to subdue all of them. However, these 65 soldiers were a huge blade when used. But if they weren't used well, they would become a ticking time bomb. Therefore, Yi Hao's first plan was to completely mess up these 650,000 soldiers. His second plan was to instill these people's loyalty to him. His third plan was to give these soldiers some benefit. For example, their children could join the academy, increase their salaries, and other benefit. Fortunately, although there were many disciples of the various clans among these soldiers, most of them were still guards recruited by the various clans. Therefore, these people wouldn't be too united. And among the 1,000 peak demon emperors rewarded by the system, a portion of them practiced military law. Therefore, Yi Hao mobilized a group of peak demon emperors to train this batch of soldiers. In addition to these 650,000 soldiers, the number of soldiers under Yi Hao's command would break through the million mark. Patriarch Y. After seeing Yi Hao leave, a demon emperor wanted to say something but stopped. Are you asking why our attitude was so tough and why we asked you to swear allegiance to our Lord? The patriarch of House Wang stood out and asked. Everyone immediately nodded. The patriarch of House Wang immediately told them about Li Yuanba. What? Our Lord actually has such a powerful expert under his command. When everyone heard that Li Yuanba had shattered the domain master's sword and head with a single strike, they were all shocked. They immediately began to imagine the scene of Li Yuanba killing the domain master. And when they heard that Yi Hao had killed 10 demon emperors from House Yu in 20 breaths' time, everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They finally understood why the patriarchs suddenly became so anxious when Yi Hao said that he would give them 30 breaths' time to consider. At this moment, they couldn't help but feel scared. If the patriarchs didn't stop, Yi Hao suddenly got angry and asked Li Yuanba to attack. They might not even be able to stand here in one piece. And our Lord's background is unknown, but his endless methods prove that he's definitely not an ordinary person. Following our Lord might not be too bad. The patriarch of House Wang said. Hearing the patriarch of House Wang's words, everyone couldn't help but nod. At least what House Yu couldn't do before, Yi Hao easily did now, and that was to unify the Rain region. And even if House Yu wanted to unify the Rain region, it definitely wouldn't be so easy. After all, House Yu wanted to deal with the 7 big clans. Although they would definitely win, it wouldn't be so easy. However, Yi Hao didn't suffer any losses and completely took over the 7 big clans. Chapter 769. Greetings, my lord. All the experts above the level of Demon Emperor came to the training field. A total of 1,500 demon emperors and 25 demon sovereigns saluted Yi Hao at the same time. Everyone, if House Yu is not eliminated, Rain region will be hard to unify. Follow me and conquer House Yu. Yi Hao ordered. Yes. Yi Hao didn't bring any soldiers to Rain City. He only brought experts above the level of Demon Emperor. This greatly increased the speed of their movement. Everyone only used 2 days to rush to Rain City. Who is it? Stop. The guards of Rain City became nervous when they saw so many people. Yi Hao didn't say anything. Instead, someone walked out from beside him and shouted at the guards, "Open your dog eyes and see who I am. Prince Yu Wu, didn't you go to war with the region leader? Why are you back?" The guards smiled apologetically when they saw Yu Wu. I was ordered by the region leader to bring my superior's VIP back to the house to receive him. Yu Wu had thought of a plan and said immediately. My superior's people. The guard was shocked when he heard the word superior. House Yu was the region leader, but there was still a superior above the region leader. Rain region was just a subordinate force under the superior. Every superior had at least 10 regions under them. So in front of the superior, House Yu was only a subordinate force. The guard looked at Yi Hao and then looked at the group of experts behind Yi Hao. He began to believe Yi Hao's words. The guard showed respect immediately. Please forgive me, my lord. I was blind. Please enter the city, my lord. And Yi Hao nodded and entered the city. Don't waste any time. Go straight to House Yu's residence. Yi Hao ordered as soon as they entered the city. Hearing Yi Hao's order, everyone rushed to House Yu's residence. Because House Yu's demon emperor was there, they didn't waste any time and arrived at House Yu's residence. "Who is it?" a guard at the door asked loudly. "Charge in," Yi Hao said coldly. Immediately, someone appeared from behind Yi Hao and sent the guard flying. "Not good, the enemy is attacking House Yu's residence," the guard who rushed up shouted. "You all can wait here. There's no need to go in," Yi Hao said to the 300 demon emperors. "Thank you, my lord." The demon king from House Yu, who had an awkward look on his face, thanked Yi Hao gratefully. After all, even though HGV had joined Yi Hao, House Yu was still their family. If Yi Bai Hofei had ordered them to attack their own clansmen, they wouldn't know what to do. But to their surprise, Yi Hao actually told them not to do anything. All they needed to do was wait outside. This was the greatest mercy he could give them. They looked up. Looking at Yi Hao's back, she knew that Yi Hao didn't know what the elders of the clan would choose. If the elders of House Yu refused to surrender, then House Yu would truly be finished. The 300 demon emperors from House Yu were waiting anxiously outside the door. "Who is it? How dare you barge into my domain chief's manor? Do you want to die?" Suddenly, more than 20 figures rushed in, and a loud shout came from afar. Didn't the 7 great clans follow the domain chief to fight against that traitor Yi Hao? Why are you here? Yu Lin, the grand elder of House Yu, had a bad feeling when he saw the patriarchs of the 7 great clans. But he calmed down when he thought of the domain chief's strength and the many experts he brought with him. Yu Lin looked at the 7 patriarchs and questioned them mercilessly. After all, this was the domain chief's manor. No one had ever dared to barge in like this. The most important thing was that this group of people had always been under House Yu's control. "If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I'm afraid the domain chief won't let you go easily," Yu Lin sneered. "Ha ha ha, Yu Lin, do you think House Yu is still the House Yu of the past?" Patriarch Wang laughed coldly. "That's right. Do you still want to use the domain chief to bully us? Yu Lin, don't you know that House Yu can't even protect itself?" The other patriarchs said one after another. Hearing the words of the heads, there was no longer any respect or fear towards House Yu. Instead, there was mockery. Everyone from House Yu frowned. Yu Lin asked coldly, "What do you mean?" "I mean, the domain chief is dead. Rain Domain has a new master." Patriarch Wang wasn't afraid of Yu Lin at all. He smiled and said, "How dare you?" Everyone from House Yu was furious when they heard Patriarch Wang's words. Because the domain chief was the strongest person in House Yu. His talent and strength were admired and respected by everyone. The domain chief was the spiritual pillar of House Yu, and his strength was the strongest in Rain Domain. But now, Patriarch Wang said that the domain chief was dead. How could they not be angry? "How dare you? Everyone from House Yu, listen up. This dog dares to insult the domain chief. Follow me and kill him," Yu Lin ordered angrily. "Let's see who dares to do it." Suddenly, a voice attracted everyone's attention. "Who are you?" Yu Lin asked coldly when he heard Yi Hao's voice. He had already taken out his weapon. But when he saw Yi Hao's cultivation, he frowned. Because Yi Hao's cultivation was too weak in his eyes. "How dare you? This is my lord," Patriarch Wang shouted when he saw Yu Lin's disrespectful attitude towards Yi Hao. "Lord? You are really going to betray the domain chief? How dare you?" Yu Lin's killing intent was obvious when he heard Patriarch Wang's words. The rest of the demon sovereigns from House Yu sneered. "Choosing a lord and choosing trash like this? I think his cultivation isn't even at the demon emperor level. Humph, you 7 big families are really looking for trouble. Do you have any shame?" A group of demon sovereigns and demon emperors serving a demon king-level kid as your lord. Wait for the domain chief to come back. Let's see how the 7 big families will explain themselves. The 7 big families weren't angry when they heard House Yu's mocking words, because they had seen Li Yuanba's strength. Plus, even the domain chief was killed. This group of people still didn't believe it. This is the domain chief you are looking for. Yi Hao waved his sleeves and threw the domain chief's corpse to the ground. Everyone was shocked when they saw the broken corpse on the ground. This corpse is broken. Who knows if it's the domain chief's? Maybe you found a random corpse to pretend to be him. Yulin's expression changed and said suddenly. Chapter 770. Seeing the panic on the faces of the Yu family members, Yulin could only shout. After all, the other party didn't come with good intentions. The most important thing now was to stabilize their morale. If they lost their fighting spirit before the battle even started, then House Yu would really be finished. Moreover, he didn't believe that the zone leader was really killed. That's right, this corpse might be fake. Everyone, you can't believe these people. The zone leader is so strong, how could he die? Everyone, kill these people and get them out of House Yu. Hearing Yulin's words, the panic on the faces of the Yu family members dissipated. Even now, they still didn't believe that the zone leader was really dead. Stubborn. Yi Hao humphed and threw out the corpses of the 10 demon sovereigns from House Yu. Seeing the sudden appearance of the 10 corpses, the Yu family members who were ready to attack stopped in their tracks. That's the 7th elder and the 8th elder. Among these corpses, of course, there were many that had their heads intact. Therefore, the Yu family members could recognize these people at a glance. Seeing this, many of the Yu family members' faces turned pale. Could it be that the zone leader is really dead? The Yu family members' eyes fell on the zone leader's body again. Looking at the zone leader's broken corpse, the Yu family members couldn't believe that this was their house leader. You killed our house leader, you little bastard, I'll kill you and take revenge for our house leader. Suddenly, Yulin rushed towards Yi Hao, the long sword in his hand piercing towards Yi Hao's throat. You're looking for death. Yi Hao didn't move from his spot. Song Yin, who was beside Yi Hao, attacked Yulin directly. Not good, this person is too strong. Feeling the sudden burst of demon sovereign aura from Song Yin, Yulin's face changed. Because Yulin's cultivation was only at the 7th level of demon sovereign. At most, he could fight against an 8th level demon sovereign. But against Song Yin, who was at the peak of demon sovereign, he was definitely not his opponent. But the arrow was already on the bow. He didn't have time to think, because Song Yin's attack was about to land on his body. Yulin glanced at Yi Hao, who was standing behind Song Yin with a calm expression. He could only defend against Song Yin's attack. But the difference between the two people's realms was too great. Even if Yulin had martial techniques to back him up, he was still defeated swiftly. Save Elder Yulin! Someone shouted, and the remaining demon sovereigns of House Yu started moving. Whoever dares to move, this will be your end. Yi Hao walked in front of Yulin, raised his sword, and instantly beheaded Yulin. Since Yulin was controlled by Song Yin, there was no room for resistance at all. At a time like this, it was necessary to make an example out of them. Sure enough, after everyone saw Yulin's death, they were all at a loss for what to do. No one dared to attack rashly. I'll give you all a chance to live. Those who surrender to me will live, and those who defy me will die. Yi Hao glanced at the remaining demon sovereigns of House Yu. From Yi Hao's perspective, House Yu only had demon sovereigns that could threaten him. Hearing Yi Hao's words, all the demon sovereigns of House Yu started hesitating. Everyone, your lives are your own. Think about it carefully. Think about it carefully. Even your house master is not our Lord's opponent. What's the use of resisting? Don't make any unnecessary resistance. Because your resistance is useless in front of our Lord. Everyone, it's not easy to cultivate. Cherish it. Your decision concerns the life and death of House Yu. Although you are all from House Yu, you are all branches of House Yu's bloodline. And House Yu's house master is already dead. No matter how loyal you are, it's useless. Moreover, a wise man submits to circumstances. It's normal for people to die in war. You don't have to worry about it too much. The words of the house masters kept hitting the hearts of the demon sovereigns of House Yu. Their eyes were filled with hesitation, and they looked at the dozens of corpses on the ground. They weren't sure if they could fight against Yi Hao. After all, as members of House Yu, they knew very well how strong the Domain Master was. Since birth, the Domain Master was a person with a halo. He was also the #1 genius of the Rain Domain. Later on, he killed many experts and became the #1 expert of the Rain Domain. It could be said that the Domain Master was an invincible existence in the Rain Domain. They believed that even if the 7 great houses teamed up, they wouldn't be able to kill the Domain Master. Moreover, the 10 demon sovereigns who fought with the Domain Master all died a violent death. On the other hand, the demon sovereigns of the 7 great houses were all safe and sound. This meant that the person who killed the Domain Master and the 10 demon sovereigns wasn't from the 7 great houses. Otherwise, it was impossible for the demon sovereigns of the 7 great houses to not be injured. That meant that Yi Hao was the one who killed the Domain Master and the 10 demon sovereigns. Thinking up to here, everyone's eyes fell on Yi Hao once again. Could it be that this kid has an extraordinary background and has an expert secretly protecting him? The demon sovereigns of House Yu immediately thought of a possibility. Because in their opinion, only an expert stronger than the Domain Master could beat him to such a miserable state. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Just then, a group of footsteps could be heard. Yue, why are you all here? Is the house master really dead? Seeing the people who came, one of the remaining demon sovereigns of House Yu immediately asked. But Yue ignored him and kneeled in front of Yi Hao. Yue, what are you doing? You're a disciple of House Yu. How can you kneel in front of an outsider? Seeing Yue's action, one of the demon sovereigns said angrily, Lord, please give your subordinate a chance, let me persuade them. Yue was also considered a genius of the younger generation of House Yu, and now he was begging Yi Hao. What? You dare to call him Lord? You traitor of the house, do you still have the house in your eyes? Bastard, you've wasted the house's nurturing. You still have the face to stand here. If I were you, I'd just kill myself. Hearing Yue call Yi Hao Lord, the people of House Yu couldn't hold it in anymore and started scolding him. Enough. Don't persist in going about things the wrong way. Yue suddenly shouted after getting Yi Hao's agreement. Hearing Yue's shout, everyone was stunned, but they still quieted down. Everyone, listen to me first, it's not too late to make a decision. Whether you surrender or fight, it's all up to you. Yue said to everyone. Everyone looked at Yue coldly, and after a while, someone said, I'd like to see what a traitor of the house like you has to say. Do you know how the Domain Master died? Yue walked in front of everyone and asked softly. The house master really died. Everyone didn't want to believe it before, but now that Yue said it, they had to believe it. How did he die? But they still asked curiously. Chapter 771. They were all killed by one of the Lord's subordinates. Yue gasped when he thought of Li Yuanba's terror. Li Yuanba's image was too domineering, and it was deeply imprinted in his mind. Although he didn't know why he didn't see Li Yuanba, Yue guessed that Li Yuanba was hiding in the dark. What? One person? Everyone gasped when they heard Yue's words, even if they were prepared for it. There are 300 demon emperor disciples from House Yu as witnesses. I can swear on it. Yue was afraid that they wouldn't believe him. Seeing that even Yue said so, everyone also believed it somewhat. They looked at Yi Hao in shock. They couldn't imagine what kind of identity Yi Hao had to have such a powerful subordinate. That's why I'm advising the elders to surrender. If you don't surrender, you'll die for nothing. That's how these 10 elders died. Yue continued. Everyone's face turned serious when they heard Yue's words. They were in a dilemma. Elders, although the Lord killed the head of House Yu, that was because he attacked the Lord first. We can't blame the Lord for this. The Lord is magnanimous and spared our lives. We have to cherish it. Plus, if House U joins the Lord, I believe that House U's achievements will be more glorious than now. Yue Wei knew that there was hope in persuading them when he saw their hesitation. Yi Hao looked at the demon sovereigns and knew that Yue Wei's persuasion was effective. He didn't mind adding fuel to the fire. He pretended to be impatient. Yue Wei, if they don't listen, then let's fight. Lord, please give me a chance. Yue Wei panicked when he heard Yi Hao's impatient voice. He was really afraid that Yi Hao would lose his patience and give the order to raze House Yu to the ground. Elders, please make a decision. The Lord came prepared. Surrendering is the only way out for House Yu. Yue Wei looked at the demon sovereigns anxiously. Prepare for battle. Yi Hao ignored Yue Wei and said coldly. The demon sovereigns from House Yu looked at Yi Hao's impatient expression. They didn't have any confidence anymore. Because they saw that Yi Hao didn't even put them in his eyes. That meant that Yi Hao's strength was stronger than theirs. Otherwise, Yi Hao wouldn't be so arrogant, declaring war as soon as he said so. Yue Wei, can you guarantee that he won't kill us if we join him? One demon sovereign asked. Hearing this demon sovereign speak, the other demon sovereigns did not object. They all looked at Yue Wei expectantly. Of course. Look at me, I'm alive and well. Yue Wei said confidently. Then, all right, we surrender. The Yu clan demon venerable expert finally made a difficult decision. My lord, they are willing to surrender. Yue Wei immediately walked in front of Yi Hao and said happily. Yi Hao let out a sigh of relief when he heard Yue Wei's words. Because if they fought, it would be a fierce battle. Even if they won, there would be many casualties on his side. And if they surrendered, that would be the best thing for him. After all, he could take over House Yu without spending a single soldier. He would have more than 20 demon sovereigns under him. His strength would increase greatly. But even though he was happy, Yi Hao's face didn't change much. After all, this was the only way for House Yu to be wary. As expected, the demon sovereigns from House Yu walked in front of Yi Hao. They saw that Yi Hao didn't look happy because they joined him. This meant that their joining wasn't that important to Yi Hao. This made them believe that Yi Hao was hiding his strength. It also meant that Yi Hao had them under his control. Thinking of this, they all began to swear their surrender. Yi Hao listened to the notifications in his head. Finally, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Because with the surrender of House Yu's demon sovereigns, Rain Domain was his. At this moment, Yi Hao had 50 demon sovereigns under him. 2,000 demon sovereigns. House Yu and the other 7 houses had a lot of troop. But Yi Hao got rid of some unsuitable soldiers. In the end, the number of soldiers was maintained at 1 million. Since he had unified Rain Domain, Yi Hao's next focus was on the academy. With 1,000 demon sovereigns, the academy's construction was on the right track. Yi Hao also divided the academy into inner courtyard disciples and outer courtyard disciples. This would stimulate the disciples' competitive spirit and stimulate their cultivation potential. At the same time, he established the academy's points. As long as the students had enough points, they could get any cultivation resources in the academy. Of course, if they wanted to get the academy's points, they had to complete the academy's missions to get the point. Yi Hao specially set some missions that the disciples could complete. For example, hunting low-level demon beasts, gathering spiritual herbs, or forging weapons. This way, at least the academy could develop well. It wouldn't let him keep investing resources in the academy. Moreover, as long as they were citizens of Rain Domain and were of suitable age, they could enter the academy to study. The study period was only 3 years. If they reached a certain level, they could enter the inner courtyard. If they didn't, they could leave the academy. If they performed well, they could join the army. Although it was only 3 years of study, to countless people it was absolutely precious, because Tianyuan Kingdom only had one academy. Although there were many sections, if one wanted to enter an academy or a sect, there was a talent requirement. Therefore, many people couldn't meet the requirements and had no chance to cultivate. Yi Hao's method at least allowed countless people to come in contact with the threshold of cultivation. As for their future achievements, it would depend on themselves. This caused countless people to be deeply grateful to Yi Hao. Because Yi Hao's method made up for countless people's regret. Because in this world where the strong were respected, everyone wanted to cultivate. No matter how bad their talent was, as long as they cultivated, they would be stronger than ordinary people. Countless people wanted to use cultivation to change their fate. In the past, because they were poor, because of their talent, they didn't have the chance to cultivate. But now, Yi Hao treated everyone fairly. Everyone had the chance to cultivate. Chapter 772. What? Let the disciples of the First Academy defeat the disciples of the Tianyuan Academy? System, are you joking? Yi Hao was shocked when he heard the mission. It wasn't that he didn't dare. It was that the Tianyuan Academy had the support of the Tianyuan Kingdom. It had a long history and a solid foundation. The First Academy had just been established. More than 99% of the disciples had not become warriors. As for the remaining 1%, the strongest one was probably at the Demon King level, and that was only a small number. Letting the number 1 academy go against the Tianyuan Academy was simply asking for trouble. Mission requirement. Send 10 inner courtyard disciples and 10 outer courtyard disciples to challenge the Tianyuan Academy within 3 months. If the challenge is successful, the host will receive a large amount of resources as a reward and the reputation of the First Academy will be greatly improved. If the challenge is failed, the First Academy will close down. Mission reminder. The top 10 inner disciples of the Tianyuan Academy are from the peak of the Demon Emperor realm to the 5th level. 9 of them have the aptitude of high grade and 1 has the aptitude of top grade. The top 10 outer disciples of the Tianyuan Academy are from the peak of the Demon King realm to the 3rd level. 8 of them have the aptitude of middle grade and 2 have the aptitude of high grade. This data is only for reference. The strength of the disciples of the Tianyuan Academy may increase at any time. The age requirement is to be below 30 years old. Hearing the system's reminder, Yi Hao sucked in a breath of cold air. The strength of the disciples of the Tianyuan Academy was too strong. Moreover, the system also required that the disciples must be below 30 years old. This made it impossible for him to find some peak Demon Emperor experts to make up the numbers. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission. Challenge the Tianyuan Academy. The reward for completing the mission is 10 top-grade aptitude pills and 10 upper-grade aptitude pills. Top-grade aptitude pill allows the user's aptitude to instantly increase to the level of top-grade aptitude, greatly increasing the cultivation speed. Upper-grade aptitude pill allows the user's aptitude to instantly increase to the level of top-grade aptitude, greatly increasing the cultivation speed. System. What grade is Li Yuanba's aptitude? Yi Hao looked at the introduction of the aptitude pill and immediately asked the system. Due to space, Li Yuanba's aptitude is top grade. The system immediately replied. Even though Yi Hao was prepared for this, he couldn't help but gulp when he heard the system's reply. He said happily, "Doesn't that mean that once I complete the mission, I can instantly have 10 Li Yuanbas?" In theory, yes, but whether or not it can grow is another matter. The system replied. Yi Hao suppressed the excitement in his heart because he knew that if he wanted to obtain these heaven-defying aptitude pills, he would have to accept the mission from the system. As long as he accepted the mission, there would be no turning back. After all, if he were to challenge the Tianyuan Academy and win, it would be fine. If he lost, he would become the laughing stock of the world, and the First Academy would never be able to lift its head again. However, Yi Hao also knew that this was a chance for the First Academy to rise up. After all, He had only challenged the Tianyuan Academy, and the system had rewarded him with 10 supreme-grade aptitude pills and 10 superior-grade aptitude pills. This was equivalent to gifting him 20 powerful beings. Furthermore, they were all experts with heaven-defying talents. After all, even in the Tianyuan Academy, there was only one extremely talented disciple. As long as he announced that he would challenge the Tianyuan Academy, he would have 10 extremely talented disciples. Furthermore, this was just a challenge to the Tianyuan Academy, and he would receive such a powerful reward. If he were to compete with the Tianyuan Academy and win, how many heaven-defying resources would he receive as a reward? To accept or not to accept? Yi Hao paced back and forth as he began to analyze the pros and cons in his heart. At this moment, the white dragon suddenly came in and interrupted Yi Hao's thoughts. "My lord, bad news. What's wrong? Why are you so flustered?" Yi Hao looked at the white dragon with an anxious expression and asked in confusion. Logically speaking, the Rain domain had already been unified by him, and there were several large armies in control. There should not be any trouble. "My lord, something has happened." "What happened? Could it be that someone is causing trouble again?" Yi Hao asked with a frown. "No, it's the Tianyuan Academy." "Tianyuan Academy? Could it be that something has happened to Yun?" When Yi Hao heard the white dragon mention the Tianyuan Academy, he immediately became anxious. "No, it's the Tianyuan Academy that announced that there can only be one academy in the Tianyuan Kingdom, and that we are not qualified to become an academy. They also said that they will send troops to the first academy sooner or later. They want the first academy to be tactful and disband as soon as possible," the white dragon said angrily. After all, he had personally overseen the construction of the Sky Yuan Academy. He was very attached to the number 1 academy. Now that the Tianyuan Academy had said such words, they were simply looking down on the first academy. "This is outrageous. I originally had no reason to attack you. Now that you have taken the initiative to provoke me, you can't blame me for this." When Yi Hao heard the white dragon's words, he could not help but become angry. "Uncle White, issue a challenge to me. Say that I, Yi Hao, will lead 10 inner yard disciples and 10 outer yard disciples to challenge the inner and outer yard disciples of the Tianyuan Academy 3 months later. Let's see who is not qualified to become an academy." Yi Hao instructed the white dragon. "My lord, you have to think carefully. The inner and outer yard disciples of the Tianyuan Academy are the pride of the Tianyuan Kingdom. They are the elites of the Tianyuan Kingdom. I'm afraid we are no match for them." Although the white dragon was also angry and did not like the Tianyuan Academy, he was still shocked when he heard that Yi Hao wanted to challenge the Tianyuan Academy. After all, Bai Yun had joined the Tianyuan Academy, and he more or less had some understanding of the Tianyuan Academy. The Tianyuan Academy's requirements for recruiting disciples were extremely high. They were not lower than some sects. Furthermore, because the Tianyuan Kingdom's royal family was backing them, the Tianyuan Academy recruited all the elite disciples of the Tianyuan Kingdom. These elite disciples had to go through many rounds of selection before they could stay in the Tianyuan Academy. Those who could become the top 10 disciples of the inner and outer yards were the cream of the crop among the Tianyuan Academy disciples. These elite disciples enjoyed tens or even hundreds of times more resources than ordinary disciples. Furthermore, they were fully nurtured by the Tianyuan Academy. And the ones Yi Hao wanted to challenge were precisely these elite genius disciples. Furthermore, he wanted to challenge the disciples of the First Academy. One had to know the standards of the disciples of the First Academy very well. Even if the top 10 disciples of the First Academy were to join forces, they would not be able to defeat the top 10 disciples of the Tianyuan Academy, let alone a one-on-one duel. Chapter 773. The White Dragon looked at Yi Hao curiously. He realized that no matter what Yi Hao encountered, he was always so confident. However, when he thought about the standards of the students from the first academy, he was worried. Yi Hao looked at the worried white dragon and comforted him. Don't worry. If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't do it. Yes, my lord. Hearing Yi Hao's words, the white dragon could only agree. Hey, have you heard? There's another academy in Tianyuan Kingdom. Why don't I know about this? It's said that this academy has no other requirements other than age. That's great. Doesn't that mean that we have a chance to cultivate? The academy's standards are not high. However, they are courting death. I don't think they will survive for long. Why? Such a good academy will benefit the commoners and the poor. Why won't they survive for long? That's because this academy dares to recklessly challenge the Heavenly Yuan Academy. If that's not courting death, what is? What? Challenging the Tianyuan Academy? Is this academy crazy? Believe it. The competition will be held in 3 months. There will be a good show then. In an instant, the news of the first academy challenging the Tianyuan Academy spread throughout the Tianyuan Kingdom. The name of the first academy was pushed to the forefront and everyone knew about it. However, no one thought that the first academy would win. After all, the reputation of the Tianyuan Academy was deeply ingrained in the hearts of everyone in the Tianyuan Kingdom. The first academy had just been established. How could they defeat the Tianyuan Academy? Preposterous, preposterous. The first academy is courting death. At this moment, a vice president walked into the meeting room of the Tianyuan Academy and flew into a rage. What's wrong, Vice President Qian? An old man sitting at the head of the table looked at Vice President Qian and asked, Vice President, don't you know that the first academy dared to challenge the Tianyuan Academy? They are looking down on the Tianyuan Academy. Vice President Qian said angrily. What? Vice Principal Qian, is what you said true? The newly established First Academy of the Rain Domain is actually challenging our Heavenly Yuan Academy. Ha ha, this is hilarious. What qualifications does the First Academy have to challenge our Tianyuan Academy? He's just a clown. He really thinks he's some big shot. I heard that the First Academy only recruits disciples with no talent. The disciples of our Tianyuan Academy are the elites of the Tianyuan Kingdom. How can the First Academy compare to us? Upon hearing that the First Academy wanted to challenge the Tianyuan Academy, the crowd burst into laughter. It could be seen that none of the people present took the First Academy seriously. However, this also caused the people present to feel extremely displeased with the Heavenly Yuan Academy. All of them felt a trace of anger in their hearts. It was like a child provoking an adult. Although the adult didn't care about the child, being provoked by the child would still ignite the anger in his heart. In their eyes, the First Academy was not even a child. However, the First Academy dared to announce their challenge to the Tianyuan Academy in front of the entire nation. This was a slap to the Tianyuan Academy's face, and they didn't take the Tianyuan Academy seriously. Principal, why don't we ask His Majesty to send troops to destroy the First Academy? That's right. The First Academy has committed a grave mistake by establishing an academy in the Tianyuan Kingdom without permission. I believe that as long as the principal requests His Majesty will definitely send troops to destroy the First Academy. The people present immediately pleaded with the principal. Interesting. How dare they challenge our Tianyuan Academy? Upon hearing the crowd's words, the old man smiled and shook his head. He then looked at the crowd. In your opinion, is the Tianyuan Academy or the First Academy stronger? The old man didn't say anything else but asked. Is there a need to ask? Of course, the Tianyuan Academy is stronger. The crowd immediately replied with confidence. They were confident in the strength of the Tianyuan Academy. If that's the case, why don't we accept the challenge? If we ask His Majesty to send troops to destroy the First Academy, we will be telling everyone that we are afraid of the First Academy. If we accept the challenge and use our absolute strength to crush the First Academy, we will be able to prove the strength of our Tianyuan Academy. This is an absolute opportunity for us. We can increase the reputation of our Tianyuan Academy and bring in more outstanding disciples for the Tianyuan Academy. The old man stood up and looked at the crowd as he spoke. Upon hearing the old man's words, the crowd nodded their heads and agreed with him. The principal is so thoughtful. We have been short-sighted. The principal's words have enlightened us. That's right. We have to make use of this opportunity to increase the reputation of our Tianyuan Academy, the crowd said excitedly. Although the Tianyuan Academy was supported by the Tianyuan Kingdom, it still lost a large number of geniuses. These geniuses looked down on the strength of the Tianyuan Academy and joined other sects instead. If they could make use of this opportunity to increase the reputation of the Tianyuan Academy, it would definitely attract a large number of geniuses to join the Tianyuan Academy. Go and get the top 10 disciples of the inner and outer yard. I want to give them a lecture. The old man instructed Vice Principal Qian, who was beside him. Yes, Principal. It could be seen that the old man had a lot of prestige among the crowd. Even Vice Principal Qian was respectful in front of the old man and did not dare to show any disrespect. At this moment, the crowd could see that the old man was serious. After all, with the strength of the Tianyuan Academy, there was no doubt that they would crush the First Academy. However, there were still 3 months before the challenge began. The old man had already gathered the top 10 disciples of the inner and outer yards to give them a lecture. It could be seen that the old man attached great importance to this matter. In the challenge 3 months from now, there will definitely be many important figures coming to watch. Therefore, this battle must show the might of my Tianyuan Academy. Therefore, in these 3 months, I will nurture these 20 disciples in a devilish manner. Pass down the order. Open all the training grounds and cultivation areas in the academy. The resources of the academy will be available to these 20 disciples for use in these 3 months. Also, open the armory and the martial skills pavilion for this old man, and let these 20 disciples choose from them. Although the crowd was mentally prepared, they were still shocked when they heard the old man's words. The resources of the Tianyuan Academy were so abundant that even a pig could be trained into a powerhouse. Chapter 774. Have you heard? Someone called the First Academy wants to challenge our Tianyuan Academy. Haha, I've heard about this long ago. That trashy academy is nothing to be ashamed of. That's right. Our Tianyuan Academy's disciples are all geniuses from all over the Tianyuan Kingdom. The First Academy only recruits a bunch of trash. And they want to challenge the top 10 inner and outer disciples of our Tianyuan Academy. I really don't know how the First Academy has the nerve to say that. I heard that the dean is taking this matter seriously. He has already called the top 10 inner and outer disciples away. What do you know? The dean wants to use the First Academy as a stepping stone. I knew it. Why would the dean let Senior Chu Feng come out of seclusion to participate in such a small matter? But I haven't seen Senior Chu Feng for a long time. I heard that Senior Chu Feng is extremely talented and is the dean's personal disciple. He is definitely the #1 genius of Tianyuan Academy. When everyone heard Chu Feng's name, their eyes were filled with respect and admiration. That was because Chu Feng had always been a popular figure in Tianyuan Academy. Moreover, he was the strongest and most talented disciple in Tianyuan Academy. It could be said that Chu Feng had given Tianyuan Academy all hope and growth. And this time, Chu Feng had come out of seclusion because of the challenge from the First Academy. This would definitely cause a commotion in Tianyuan Academy. At this moment, many Tianyuan Academy's disciples were even looking forward to the scene where Chu Feng would show his prowess and crush all the disciples of the First Academy 3 months later. Everyone believed that Chu Feng could do it because he was Chu Feng. He was the hope of Tianyuan Academy, the #1 genius of Tianyuan Academy. Greetings, Senior Chu Feng. At this moment, there were 10 disciples in black and 9 in white standing in front of the conference hall of Tianyuan Academy. At this moment, a young man in gold walked over and immediately attracted everyone's attention. The 19 people hid their jealousy and bowed respectfully to Chu Feng. They were all geniuses of the Tianyuan Academy, but compared to Chu Feng, they were nothing but dog farts. Therefore, it was impossible for them not to be envious of Chu Feng. But there was nothing they could do about it. Not only were they not as talented as Chu Feng, they were also not as strong. One had to know that the 10 black-clothed disciples were still fine. After all, they were outer sect disciples. Although they were in the top 10 of the outer sect, they were not worth mentioning in the inner sect. However, because those 9 inner courtyard disciples were ranked in the top 10, all of them had been beaten up by Chu Feng. After all, they were all very unconvinced of Chu Feng's strength back then and would often challenge him. Of course, the end result was that they were beaten up. There was even one time when Chu Feng challenged 5 of them to a duel, and Chu Feng won by a narrow margin. Since then, no one dared to challenge Chu Feng. Therefore, when they saw Chu Feng at this moment, they had no choice but to be respectful. After all, no matter what, Chu Feng's future was brighter than theirs. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. Even if he couldn't curry favor with him, he definitely couldn't leave a bad impression. Yes. Chu Feng nodded but didn't say anything else. Since you're here, don't just stand there. Come in. Suddenly, the dean's voice came from the conference room. After hearing the dean's voice, everyone except Chu Feng shook their heads and sighed bitterly in their hearts. This was the difference between people. One had to know that after they received the order, they quickly rushed to the conference hall, not daring to delay. Many of them had been waiting there for over half a day. But the dean didn't ask them to come in. Only after Chu Feng came did he let them in. Hearing the dean's words, everyone immediately looked at Chu Feng respectfully. Senior brother Chu Feng, please. Chu Feng didn't stand on ceremony. He took the lead and walked into the conference hall. The rest of the people immediately followed. Disciple Chu Feng greets master, vice deans, and elders. Chu Feng bowed to everyone in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Peak of the Devil Emperor, not bad, not bad. Everyone looked at Chu Feng's cultivation and nodded with satisfaction. Even the dean himself showed a satisfied look on his face. And all the disciples, hearing Chu Feng's cultivation, also took a breath of cold air. One had to know that Chu Feng had reached the peak of the Devil Emperor when he was only 29 years old. It could be said that he was very likely to reach the Devil Emperor level when he was 30 years old. Feng sit down first. The dean pointed to a seat at the end with a smile on his face. Thank you, master. Hearing the dean's words, Chu Feng immediately pulled out a chair and sat down. Seeing Chu Feng sit down, the elders couldn't help but feel shocked. But when they thought of Chu Feng's talent and cultivation, they were speechless. Because according to Chu Feng's talent, it was only a matter of time before he sat there. They didn't need to offend the dean and Chu Feng over such a trivial matter. As for the disciples, their faces were filled with astonishment. After all, in this conference hall, those who could sit there were at least elders of Tianyuan Academy. They had a certain amount of authority in Tianyuan Academy. And most of the elders were not qualified to sit in this conference hall. Now that Chu Feng was sitting in the conference hall, it meant that Chu Feng's status had surpassed some of the elders. Although he might not be as good as the elders present, it was enough for them to be envious. Because since the opening of Tianyuan Academy, there had never been a disciple who could sit in the conference hall. And Chu Feng had definitely created a precedent in Tianyuan Academy and broken the rules of Tianyuan Academy. This was talent, this was strength. Although many disciples were envious, they could only stand there obediently. "You all know why I called you all here, right?" "Master, it's for the challenge of the First Academy." Hearing the dean's question, Chu Feng immediately spoke. "That's right, what do you all think?" The elder didn't deny it but looked at Chu Feng and the rest. "Master, the First Academy dares to challenge the prestige of Tianyuan Academy. When the time comes, I alone will be able to fight against all the disciples of the First Academy." Chu Feng's tone was full of disdain towards the First Academy, and the corner of his eyes revealed his confidence. Hearing Chu Feng's words, the dean nodded with satisfaction. "I'm not worried about your strength, but I still need to train you all." "Thank you, master." Hearing the dean's words, Chu Feng immediately thanked him. As for the other disciples, their faces were filled with joy. After all, the headmaster was personally grooming them. For them, this was a great opportunity. "Thank you, Dean. When the time comes, I'll definitely defeat the First Academy." Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the mission. The host is rewarded with 10 supreme grade and 10 upper grade potential pills. Chapter 775. After obtaining these aptitude pills, the next task was to find the inner and outer court disciples. Of course, the level of these disciples couldn't be too low. Otherwise, no matter how talented they were, they wouldn't be able to win the competition in 3 months. The strength of the outer court disciples of Tianyuan Academy ranged from peak Demon King to Third Order Demon Emperor. Therefore, if Yi Hao wanted the outer court disciples to win the competition, he had to let the outer court disciples reach Third Order Demon Emperor. This was under the condition that the outer court disciples of Tianyuan Academy didn't have a breakthrough in cultivation in these 3 months. Needless to say, the inner court disciples of Tianyuan Academy ranged from 5th Order Demon Emperor to Peak Demon Emperor. What worried Yi Hao the most was that the Peak Demon Emperor of Tianyuan Academy would break through to the Demon Emperor realm. "It seems that I have to start with the big families to win the competition." Yi Hao sighed. Although the number of disciples he recruited was terrifying, the quality was not good. Yi Hao had to admit that. Although all the inner and outer court disciples below 30 years old met the requirements, Yi Hao's requirement was that they had to be at least Demon Emperor realm. In the First Academy, there was no one at the Demon Emperor realm. It was easy to find a disciple at the Demon Emperor realm in the big families, but it was not easy to find a disciple at the Demon Emperor realm below 30 years old. After all, these big families might have more cultivation resources than some small families, but they couldn't be compared with Tianyuan Academy. Therefore, even in these big families, a disciple at the Demon Emperor realm below 30 years old was considered to be a talented one. "Come, hand over the people of the 7 big families. At the same time, call Family U over. Ask them to bring me all the disciples at the Demon Emperor realm below 30 years old." Yi Hao ordered the guards. Not long after, the family heads of the 7 big families and the acting family head of Family U came over with some young disciples. "Greetings, my lord." When they saw Yi Hao, they immediately saluted. "Get up," Yi Hao said to everyone and then looked at the disciples of the big families. "Why are there so few disciples?" Yi Hao frowned when he saw the number. This was because there were only 13 people in total. The Lord wants these disciples to participate in the challenge 3 months later. The Wang family head immediately guessed. Yi Hao nodded and did not deny it. "My lord, most of them have just broken through to the First Order Demon Emperor. The strongest among them is only at the 7th Order Demon Emperor. I'm afraid they are no match for the Heavenly Yuan Academy," the patriarch of the Wang family said worriedly. Yi Hao also felt immense pressure from the strength of these people. It seemed that even if he had the aptitude pill and could change the talent of these people, it would not be easy to raise their cultivation by a large margin. After all, he had to raise their cultivation by at least 3 to 4 levels. Without the help of leveling pills, it would be impossible to raise one's cultivation in 3 months. If Yi Hao did not have supreme grade and superior grade aptitude pills in his hands, Yi Hao would probably want to give up on the mission immediately. However, with these aptitude pills, Yi Hao knew that there was still a chance for him to give it his all. However, what made Yi Hao depressed was that these families only had 13 demon emperors. They were still short of 7 people. Are there any demon emperors under the age of 30 in your families? Yi Hao asked the patriarchs. Hearing Yi Hao's question, they immediately shook their heads. If there were demon emperors over the age of 30, there were still many of them. However, if there were demon emperors under the age of 30 in their families, there were only 13 of them. My lord, although there are no demon emperors in our families, there are many geniuses in the Rain domain who have reached the demon emperor level before the age of 30. However, most of them are arrogant and will not be willing to join our academy and become a disciple. Looking at Yi Hao's worried face, the patriarch of the Wang family thought for a while and said, "Those people are used to wandering around and are not willing to join any forces. I don't think there's a chance." The substitute patriarch of House Yu heard Patriarch Wang's words and immediately shook his head. This was because which family didn't want to become stronger? However, they couldn't just rely on their own disciples. All the geniuses that they saw outside would be tempted to join the family and work for them. House Yu used to do this often. After all, they were the domain lords and had the qualifications to do this. House Yu knew very well which geniuses were in the Rain domain. It could be said that those who could reach the Demon Emperor level before the age of 30 were either extremely lucky or had decent talent. Therefore, House Yu wouldn't let them go. They would often throw out olive branches, but they would basically be rejected. However, they couldn't force these disciples with potential. They couldn't kill them because it would cause public anger. One had to know that House Yu was the domain lord back then. They were no different from Yi Hao. From their perspective, it would be difficult for Yi Hao to do something that even House Yu couldn't do. Moreover, they were recruiting these people to fight for the first academy against the Tianyuan Academy. Those people would probably reject it even more. After all, those people who could reach the Demon Emperor level before the age of 30 weren't stupid. Everyone could see that if they couldn't improve their strength greatly within 3 months, they would be looking for trouble after 3 months. Even the 13 people present were very unwilling to participate in the challenge 3 months later. However, Yi Hao was their lord. They couldn't disobey Yi Hao's orders. If even these disciples were like this, then what would happen to those who were used to being arrogant and solitary? There's no other way. We can only start from these people. Yi Hao decided. After all, there was really no other way now. He could only see a glimmer of hope from these people. Go to the Rain domain and collect all the information of those who are above the age of 30 and have reached the Demon Emperor level. Give it to me as soon as possible. Yes. Hearing Yi Hao's order, the few family heads immediately agreed. Although they didn't think highly of Yi Hao, they still went to collect information. After all, other than those people, they couldn't find anyone who could reach the Demon Emperor level under the age of 30. Why? You don't dare to fight against the Tianyuan Academy? Yi Hao looked at the 13 Demon Emperors. Each of them had a trace of worry on their faces. When they heard Yi Hao's question, they didn't say anything. However, they still nodded honestly. Yi Hao wasn't surprised by their nod. Yi Hao used the system to look at their talent. He found that many of them were only low-grade talents. Their cultivation today probably had something to do with luck and hard work. Chapter 776. With such talent, their future achievements would be very limited if they did not have a great opportunity. It would be good if they could reach the level of a demon venerable. This was also why there was not a single demon emperor in the entire Rain domain. It was said that the strongest person in the Rain domain, the domain master, was only a middle-grade talent back then. Moreover, The domain master had the highest chance of reaching the level of a demon emperor. As for these people in front of him, as long as they took his aptitude pills and cultivated diligently in the future, it would not be a problem for them to become a demon emperor. However, Yi Hao was not in a hurry to give out the aptitude pills to these people. He still needed to rank these people's strength before giving out the aptitude pills. After all, this was a challenge between the inner and outer courtyard disciples. He also needed to assign these people to the inner and outer courtyard disciples. There was no doubt that the 10 aptitude pills would be given to the inner courtyard disciples. After all, in terms of strength, the inner courtyard disciples needed to improve their cultivation more than the outer courtyard disciples. It was not until night time that the few family heads handed some information to Yi Hao. Coincidentally, there was information about a total of 7 people, no more and no less. All of you, come with me. Yi Hao flipped through the information and said to everyone, "My lord, you really want to go?" Seeing that Yi Hao was unwilling to give up, the few family heads shook their heads helplessly. They knew that Yi Hao was destined to be rejected. This was because when they were collecting the information, they had sent people to test the wishes of these people. However, without exception, all 7 of them rejected. However, when they saw that Yi Hao had already walked out, they looked at each other and immediately chased after him. "My lord, this is Hook's house." The few of them went to the nearest Wang family city. The Wang family head pointed at a small courtyard and said. Yi Hao nodded and signaled the Wang family head to knock on the door. Yi Hao had already memorized Hook's information on the way here. Hook was 26 years old. He had a mother at home. He was filial and his strength was at the 6th level of the Demon Emperor realm. In Yi Hao's opinion, this strength was not easy. Looking at the dilapidated courtyard in front of him, it was obvious that Hook's cultivation was not easy. After all, it was impossible for a family like this to have too many cultivation resources for them to cultivate. "Who is it?" Someone knocked on the door and an old voice came from the courtyard. The door opened and an old lady with a crooked back walked in. "I am the head of the Wang family. I am here to look for Hook." The head of the Wang family said respectfully to the old man, "Lord City Lord, you have graced us with your presence. Forgive me for my lack of manners." Hearing the Wang family head's words, the old woman's complexion changed. Panic appeared on her face. After all, it was very rare for ordinary citizens like them to encounter an existence on the level of the city lord. However, the old woman's face was filled with worry. "City lord, did my courier cause any trouble? I apologize to you on his behalf." "Sigh, elder, you've misunderstood. My lord is looking for Hook." The Wang family head hurriedly said. "My lord?" The old man looked at Yi Hao and couldn't help but be shocked because Yi Hao was too young. He looked even younger than her son. But it was such a person that even the city lord called him lord. The old woman naturally knew that the person with the highest status here was Yi Hao. "Greetings, lord." The old woman immediately bowed to Yi Hao. Yi Hao quickly helped the old woman up. "There's no need for formalities. I am the Rain Domain's protectorate lord. I would like your son to serve under me. Would you be willing?" Yi Hao knew that Hook was famous for being a filial son. Therefore, Yi Hao guessed that Hook was unwilling to leave home because of his filial piety. A person like him deserved his respect. "You are the protectorate lord? You want my son to serve under you?" The old woman was shocked when she heard that Yi Hao was the protectorate lord. However, when she heard that Yi Hao actually wanted Hook to serve under him, the old woman's face lit up with excitement. After all, which mother didn't want her son to become a dragon? She hoped that her son would spread his wings and soar high. She had never dared to think that her son would serve under the protectorate lord. "That's right. I want him to join the First Academy and become a disciple of the First Academy." Yi Hao nodded. The First Academy is the first sacred academy that has no requirement. Even the sons and daughters of the poor can enter. The old woman's voice became even more excited when she heard the name of the first academy. The first academy had no requirements when it came to recruiting disciples. It was simply a blessing for everyone. It was a blessing for the ordinary and poor people. Therefore, everyone in the Rain Domain knew about the first academy. The old woman had naturally heard the people around her talking about it. "All right, Protectorate Lord. My son is willing. I will agree on his behalf." In the old woman's opinion, this was simply an opportunity for her son to have a bright future. The old woman was afraid that Yi Hao would go back on his word, so she hurriedly spoke up. "Mother, who is it?" A door in the corner of the courtyard opened and a young man covered in sweat walked out. From the looks of it, Yi Hao should have just finished cultivating. Yi Hao nodded his head in satisfaction when he saw such a hard-working person. "Who are you? Why are you at my door?" Hook frowned when he saw Yi Hao and the others. He immediately walked over and shielded the old woman behind him. He looked at Yi Hao and the others warily. At the same time, he looked at the old woman worriedly. "Mother, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Why are you making such a fuss?" The old woman looked at Hook with pride and love in her eyes. "Oh right, Kur. This is the Protectorate Lord. Hurry up and greet him," the old woman immediately said to Hook. "Protectorate Lord?" Hook looked at Yi Hao in astonishment. This was because he reckoned that Yi Hao was younger than him. "Who are you? Why are you lying to my mother?" Hook looked at Yi Hao warily. He really did not believe that Yi Hao was the Protectorate Lord. "How dare you, Hook? Stop your nonsense. This is the new Protectorate Lord of the Rain Domain, Yi Hao." The head of the Wang family shouted when he saw Hook speaking disrespectfully to Yi Hao. "You are Yi Hao, the person who unified the Rain Domain and established the first academy?" Hook recognized the head of the Wang family. He had also heard of Yi Hao's name before. However, he would never have imagined that Yi Hao would be so young. However, he also knew that the heads of the major families in the Rain Domain had pledged their allegiance to Yi Hao. Therefore, the words of the head of the Wang family could not be false. When he saw Yi Hao's youthful appearance, Hook's heart was filled with astonishment. "That's right." Yi Hao nodded his head. "Why are you looking for me?" Hook asked in confusion when he saw Yi Hao nod his head. He suppressed the shock in his heart. "I want to recruit you to work for me." Yi Hao went straight to the point and did not beat around the bush. Chapter 777. I know that you don't want to rely on anyone because you want to accompany your mother. However, don't you want your mother to live a better life? Yi Hao wasn't surprised to see Hook reject him. As expected, Hook froze when he heard Yi Hao's words. Furthermore, a person's growth is limited. Shouldn't you grow even stronger and make your mother proud of you? Yi Hao continued when he saw that Hook was slightly moved. "Kurer, you should follow the territorial lord. Following me will only restrict your development," the old woman suddenly said. "Mother, you are not in good health. How can your son leave you?" Hook looked at his mother and said, "Who said that you should leave your mother? You can bring your mother along and work for me. At the same time, you can let your mother enjoy her old age in peace." "Sir, I know why you are here. It must be for the challenge in 3 months. However, I am not strong enough." Hook also knew his limits. Hook saw the young talents behind Yi Hao and understood why Yi Hao had come. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. "However, I have a way to improve your cultivation talent." "What?" Hook was stunned when he heard Yi Hao's words. He looked at Yi Hao's confident face. It didn't seem like he was lying at all. Hook wasn't the only one who was shocked. The people that Yi Hao had brought along were all looking at Yi Hao in shock. This was because what Yi Hao had said was simply too frightening. As martialists, everyone knew that talent was the most important thing. With good talent, one's cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. However, for many people, their talent was already destined from the moment they were born. Of course, they had also heard of heaven-defying items that could change one's talent. However, it was extremely difficult to obtain them. Of course, there were also elixirs that could slightly improve an ordinary person's talent. These were also things that they could afford. However, they weren't of much use to them. For example, Yi Hao had given his soldiers the Demon General Aptitude Elixir at the beginning. Those elixirs could only improve an ordinary person's cultivation talent. However, those people's talents were still far from being inferior. Therefore, they believed that the medicinal pill that Yi Hao spoke of that could increase one's talent was absolutely not that kind of ordinary thing. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked because they didn't expect that Yi Hao would actually use such a large capital to recruit Huku. Even Hook didn't quite believe that Yi Hao would be willing to spend so much money. As long as you pledge allegiance to me, I can raise your aptitude to that of an upper-grade talent. Yi Hao purposely hid something. According to Hook's strength, no matter what, he had to give Hook a supreme-grade aptitude pill. However, the supreme-grade aptitude pill was too heaven-defying. There were too many people here. Even if the loyalty of these people was unquestionable, they could not easily reveal it. But even so, Yi Hao's words shocked everyone once again. Hook looked at Yi Hao with a burning gaze. Are you serious? It was no wonder that Hook was so excited. The temptation of a superior talent was simply too great. After all, his current talent was only at the upper level of the inferior grade, which was not bad. When he first started cultivating, he simply threw his peers by a large margin. However, slowly, the advantage of his talent no longer existed. According to his own estimation, with his talent, it would be very good if he could cultivate to the level of a demon venerable. As for the higher level of a demon emperor, he probably had no fate with it in this generation. He originally thought that it would be very good if Yi Hao could raise his talent to that of a middle-grade talent. This was because if his talent was raised to the middle grade, he had full confidence that he could cultivate to the level of a demon venerable. As for breaking through to the level of a demon emperor, it would also become possible. However, he didn't expect that Yi Hao would actually raise his talent to that of an upper-grade talent. In other words, with his talent, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the level of a demon emperor in this lifetime. That was a demon emperor that had never been born in the rain domain. To him, this was definitely a huge temptation. After all, the rain domain's ruler was only a middle-grade talent and was only one step away from the level of a demon emperor. Is what you said true? Hook suppressed the fire in his eyes and looked at Yi Hao. The elixir is here. It's definitely true. Yi Hao took out a supreme-grade aptitude elixir. Seeing the supreme-grade aptitude elixir in Yi Hao's hand, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. At this moment, everyone was looking at Yi Hao with a burning gaze. If it weren't for the fact that many of the family heads and disciples were loyal to Yi Hao, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold themselves back and snatch the elixir. Hook looked at the aptitude elixir in Yi Hao's hand and couldn't help but swallow his saliva. This was because this was an opportunity that could change his life. Hook retracted his gaze from the elixir and looked at his mother. Although the old woman didn't know the heaven-defying effects of this aptitude elixir, she could see that her son yearned for this aptitude elixir. Kur, don't hesitate anymore. This is your opportunity. You can't miss it. The higher you grow, the happier I will be for you, the old woman immediately said to Hook. I have a request. Hook suddenly opened his mouth. Hook, don't be ungrateful. How dare you make a request when you have such a heaven-defying elixir? Upon hearing Hook's words, the crowd was instantly enraged. Don't worry. In these 3 months, I will accompany the maidservants to take care of your mother. After 3 months, you can accompany your mother and enjoy her old age. After that, you can work for me. Before Hook could speak, Yi Hao spoke first. I understand. Hook pays his respects to the Lord. Upon hearing Yi Hao's words, Hook immediately bowed emotionally. The effects of this elixir are heaven-defying. If you really want to rely on me, you should swear an oath. After all, this was a supreme grade aptitude elixir. It could raise one's talent to supreme grade. Naturally, Yi Hao wouldn't be careless. Moreover, Yi Hao saw that Hook's loyalty was only slightly more than 60. He had no choice but to make Hook swear an oath. Hook. Upon hearing Yi Hao's words, Hook immediately began to swear. This showed how important this aptitude elixir was to him. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for subduing 7th Order Demon Emperor Hook. Loyalty. 98. Upon hearing the system's notification, Yi Hao nodded his head in satisfaction. This elixir belongs to you. I hope you won't disappoint me. Yi Hao handed the supreme grade aptitude elixir to Hook. Hook reached out his hand and received the aptitude elixir excitedly. His hands couldn't help but tremble. He said excitedly, "Hook will definitely not disappoint the Lord. We will protect you. Eat the elixir," Yi Hao said to Hook. Yes. Upon hearing Yi Hao's instructions, Hook immediately ate the elixir excitedly. Everyone looked at Hook nervously. They wanted to know if this elixir was really heaven-defying and could raise one's talent from low grade to high grade. Chapter 778. Only the 13 disciples were looking at Hook enviously at this moment. Don't be envious. These elixirs are for you. Take them now. Yi Hao took out 13 elixirs. Among them, there were 10 upper-grade elixirs and 3 supreme-grade elixirs. When they saw Yi Hao take out so many elixirs, they were shocked again. "My lord, are these elixirs too?" The 13 disciples looked at Yi Hao excitedly and asked nervously. As for the few family heads, their faces were filled with anticipation at this moment even though they could not consume the pills. Although they could not take the elixirs, at least the disciples of their families got them. This made them feel a little jealous of Hook at the beginning, but it slowly disappeared. When they saw Yi Hao nodding, the 13 of them were excited. They took the elixirs from Yi Hao's hands. "Thank you, my lord." The 13 of them took the elixirs and immediately knelt down to thank Yi Hao. However, they could not hide the excited smiles on their faces. "Now that I have recruited one, I still need 6 more." Yi Hao looked at Hook and thought. After a while, Hook suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Yi Hao excitedly. "My lord, I feel that the difficulties in my cultivation have been solved. I feel that I am going to make a breakthrough." After Hook finished speaking, he immediately closed his eyes and started cultivating. Boom! After a while, Hook's aura shook. Everyone immediately looked at Hook. Hook had made a breakthrough. His cultivation had reached level 9 Demon Emperor. After Hook stabilized his cultivation, he immediately got up and knelt down to thank Hook. "Thank you, my lord. Hook will go through fire and water for you in the future. I will not hesitate." This was because Hook knew that his talent had improved by more than a few times. His talent had definitely not been upgraded to upper grade. It had been upgraded to supreme grade. He knew that his feeling could not be wrong. There was only one possibility. Yi Hao had deliberately concealed the power of the elixirs. Hook thought about it and agreed. An elixir that could upgrade one's talent to upper grade was enough to make countless experts go crazy. Not to mention supreme grade talents of a higher level. If people knew that there was an elixir that could upgrade one's talent from low grade to supreme grade, the whole world would go crazy for it. "You actually broke through." Feeling Hook's aura, the many family heads looked at Hook in shock and asked. However, before Hook could say anything, several auras of breakthroughs appeared beside him. Feeling the aura of a breakthrough, the patriarchs immediately looked towards the 13 disciples. Half of them had broken through to the next level. This is too heaven-defying. The patriarchs were very clear about the situation of their own disciples. It was impossible for these disciples to make a breakthrough so early. and for these disciples to be able to break through at this time, it must have something to do with the pills that Yi Hao had given them. Although I haven't broken through yet, I'm almost there. Me too. I feel that my talent in the past is nothing compared to now. What the Lord has bestowed upon us is definitely a miraculous pill. Many disciples stood up and said excitedly. This was because they all noticed that their talents had increased tremendously after consuming the aptitude pills. The cultivation obstacles that had been in front of them previously had now disappeared without a trace. Moreover, they felt that their current cultivation speed had increased by several times compared to their previous cultivation speed. At this moment, they saw a glimmer of hope for victory in the challenge 3 months later. Let's go to the next place. Seeing that everyone had successfully improved their aptitude, Wang Hao instructed. Yi Hao looked at Hook and said, "Bring your mother and wait for me at the first academy." "Yes, Lord." Seeing that his talent had broken through, Hook was full of ambition for the future. Therefore, Hook was in a good mood at this moment and was even more convinced by Yi Hao. After Yi Hao and the rest left the Wang family's territory, they immediately went to the other cities. Li Xiaotian, rank 6 Demon Emperor, 27 years old, arrogant character. Yi Hao looked at the introduction in the message. Li Xiaotian's residence was a small remote valley outside the city. At this moment, when he arrived at the small valley, he could hear people shouting from afar. Rumble! Li Xiaotian held the axe with both hands and slammed it on the ground. A deep trench appeared on the ground in an instant. Not bad. Looking at Li Xiaotian's strength, Yi Hao nodded with satisfaction. According to his analysis, Li Xiaotian's strength should be considered above average among the martial artists of the same level. The only thing that was lacking was that Li Xiaotian had not received formal guidance, so his attack was slightly inferior. "Who are you?" Suddenly, Li Xiaotian noticed Yi Hao and the rest and looked over vigilantly. "I want to take you as my subordinate. I don't know if you are willing." Yi Hao looked at Li Xiaotian and said, "You, a mere rank 10 demon king, what qualifications do you have to take me as your subordinate?" Li Xiaotian looked at Yi Hao and said disdainfully, "I have no interest in messing around with you, you'd better leave." Li Xiaotian looked at the people behind Yi Hao and thought that Yi Hao was a rich young master from some big force. "Why don't we have a fight? If you lose, you will be my subordinate." Yi Hao did not get angry because of Li Xiaotian's disdain, but continued to smile and said, "You are courting death, but you have to promise that they will not attack." Hearing Yi Hao's words, Li Xiaotian was also interested and wanted to teach Yi Hao a lesson. However, Li Xiaotian could also see that the people behind Yi Hao were all extraordinary, so he did not forget to remind him. "Don't worry, they won't attack, but you have to keep your word." Yi Hao's face was full of a smile of success. On the way, Yi Hao had already planned to subdue Li Xiaotian. Li Xiaotian was arrogant. If he wanted to subdue him, he would have to crush his arrogance. "Don't worry, I, Li Xiaotian, am a man of my word, but you won't have the chance." After Li Xiaotian finished speaking, he suddenly rushed toward Yi Hao and said, "Eat my axe." "My lord, be careful." Seeing Li Xiaotian suddenly attack, the people behind him immediately became worried. After all, they saw that Yi Hao's strength was only at the peak of the Demon King realm. In their opinion, Yi Hao was definitely not a match for Li Xiaotian. After all, Li Xiaotian was a rank 6 Demon Emperor. Crushing Yi Hao was like playing a game. "You don't have to attack," Yi Hao said to the people and rushed forward. "Oh my God, how can my lord be so fast?" Everyone was worried at first, but when they saw Yi Hao's speed, they were stunned. Because they realized that Yi Hao's speed was definitely not the speed of a demon king. Chapter 779. How did you dodge my attack? Li Xiaotian was shocked when he saw that his attack missed. One must know that he was a 6th-order demon emperor. With his strength, he could easily kill any existence below the 5th Order Demon Emperor. If Yi Hao's strength was on par with his, it wouldn't be surprising if Yi Hao dodged his attack. But the key was that Yi Hao's cultivation was only at the peak of the Demon King realm. A Demon King could easily dodge the attack, but a 6th Order Demon Emperor's attack was a bit abnormal. I want to see how you dodge my attack. Li Xiaotian was unhappy when his first attack missed. He attacked Yi Hao again. But the situation was the same this time. Yi Hao easily dodged his attack again. He actually dodged it again. In addition to Li Xiaotian, the onlookers were also secretly shocked, because they all felt that Yi Hao's speed was definitely not the speed that a Demon King should have. I'm guessing that the Lord must have a powerful speed technique to be able to move so quickly. Seeing that Yi Hao easily dodged Li Xiaotian's attack every time, but did not fight back, the onlookers guessed. Because they saw that Yi Hao's cultivation realm was indeed at the peak of the Demon King realm. They would never be wrong. But Yi Hao's speed was faster than a 6th Order Demon Emperor's speed. So they all thought that Yi Hao was using a powerful speed cultivation technique. Boy, don't dodge if you have the ability. Fight with me. Li Xiaotian's attacks missed several times in a row. At this moment, he couldn't help but be flustered and exasperated. In his opinion, Yi Hao kept dodging his attacks because Yi Hao had a powerful speed cultivation technique. In his opinion, if Yi Hao didn't have such fast speed, he would be killed by Yi Hao in an instant. You said it. Hearing Li Xiaotian's words, Yi Hao's face showed a smile. So what if I say it? As long as you don't run away, I promise I'll kill you. Seeing that Yi Hao was no longer running away, Li Xiaotian attacked Yi Hao again. When Li Xiaotian saw that Yi Hao really did not run away this time, he could not help but be delighted. Be careful, my lord. Everyone panicked when they saw that Yi Hao had stopped running. Get ready to save the lord, the Wang clan head said anxiously. But before anyone could make a move, Yi Hao suddenly moved. Gale Step. Yi Hao immediately used Gale Step, and his speed suddenly increased again. Oh my god! Everyone was so shocked that their jaws dropped. They thought that Yi Hao's speed was fast enough, but compared to his current speed, it was much faster than before. As for Li Xiaotian, he only felt a blur in front of his eyes. Suddenly, Yi Hao had disappeared. Before Li Xiaotian could react, he suddenly felt a pain in his abdomen, and his whole body flew backward. But before he could land, he suffered another heavy blow and was sent flying again. Everyone was completely stupefied by this scene. Why do I feel that the Lord is more powerful than me? A 5th Order Demon Emperor disciple said with cold sweat on his forehead. Is this really the strength of a Demon King? He completely defeated a 6th Order Demon Emperor. Sure enough, we can't look at the Lord with the eyes of an ordinary person. This Li Xiaotian is also looking for trouble. Wasn't it good for the Lord to avoid him and not attack him? Now, he is going to suffer. Everyone watched as Yi Hao brutally beat Li Xiaotian. Their hearts could not calm down for a long time. Stop hitting me, I admit defeat. After being beaten by Yi Hao for more than 10 times, Li Xiaotian finally could not bear it and opened his mouth to beg for mercy. Because Li Xiaotian felt that if he continued to be beaten by Yi Hao, he would probably die here. Are you willing to be my subordinate? Yi Hao did not stop attacking and asked. I am willing, Li Xiaotian cried. Then hurry up and swear. Okay, I swear. Li Xiaotian cried and swore to be loyal to Yi Hao forever. Only then did Yi Hao let Li Xiaotian go. At this moment, Li Xiaotian was beaten black and blue. Li Xiaotian looked at Yi Hao's cultivation and asked in disbelief, Lord, are you really a peak demon king? Of course. Yi Hao did not hide and revealed his cultivation realm. Furthermore, with his cultivation, everyone present would be able to easily detect his cultivation level. Li Xiaotian could not accept that he was beaten by a peak demon king and could not fight back. This pill is for you. Yi Hao looked at Li Xiaotian and took out a top-grade aptitude pill. What is this? Li Xiaotian looked at the top-grade aptitude pill warily. Short-sighted. Seeing Yi Hao give Li Xiaotian the pill, but Li Xiaotian did not take it. This made the family heads gnash their teeth in jealousy and jealousy. Li Xiaotian looked at the family heads who were looking at him with jealousy. He immediately realized that the pill Yi Hao gave him must be something good. Li Xiaotian immediately took it. He did not believe that Yi Hao would harm him when he had already pledged allegiance to Yi Hao. Li Xiaotian swallowed the pill. He wondered if this was a slap in the face and a sweet date to eat. But after swallowing the pill, Li Xiaotian's heart suddenly boiled. Talent, my talent has become stronger. I'm not dreaming, am I? Li Xiaotian closed his eyes and felt that his talent was constantly increasing. He roared in his heart. The family heads looked at Li Xiaotian, who was sitting on the ground. Although his eyes were closed, there was a big smile on his face. They were envious and looked at Yi Hao with resentment. Yi Hao felt the resentful gazes behind him and said, I only have so many pills now, and they must be used by these disciples. Of course, if you perform well, I will definitely reward you with more pills in the future. Thank you, my lord. Hearing Yi Hao's words, the family heads immediately thanked him excitedly. That was because they all knew that their talent was limited. If they did not have a great opportunity, they would probably reach the end of their lives. But with the aptitude pill, after improving their aptitude, their potential would increase greatly. Moreover, the higher their cultivation level, the stronger their strength and the longer their lifespan. Therefore, they were also very eager to obtain an aptitude pill to improve their aptitude. Li Xiaotian, thank you, my lord. In the future, I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire for you. Li Xiaotian immediately thanked Yi Hao excitedly after refining the pill in his body. He knew that his future life would be turned upside down after all. That was because his current talent had far surpassed his previous talent, and his achievements would definitely reach greater heights. And all of this was given to him by Yi Hao. Therefore, at this moment, Li Xiaotian's heart was full of gratitude to Yi Hao. If he had pledged loyalty to Yi Hao in the past, he would have been forced to do so. He had no choice but to pledge his loyalty because Yi Hao had forced him. Chapter 780. After all, for such a heaven-defying pill, even a demon sovereign or even a demon emperor would go crazy for it, let alone a demon emperor. If Yi Hao were to take out this pill, even a demon emperor-level expert might serve Yi Hao. My lord has recruited another genius. Seeing that Li Xiaotian had returned to Yi Hao's side, everyone could not help but sigh at Yi Hao's means. After all, they had recruited Li Xiaotian and the others before. However, Li Xiaotian and the others scoffed at their recruitment and did not take them seriously at all. However, once Yi Hao took action, he recruited 2 people. However, thinking about the capital that Yi Hao had invested, their families could not afford it. Because even if their families were to be destroyed, they would not be able to exchange for a superior grade aptitude pill. Because a superior grade aptitude pill represented a superior grade aptitude pill. And a superior grade aptitude pill was equivalent to having an additional demon emperor level expert. In the entire Rain domain, there had not been a demon emperor level expert for a long time. All this could prove the preciousness of a superior grade aptitude pill. Yi Hao then used the means of coercion and bribery. Finally, on the evening of the second day, the remaining 5 spots were all filled. Yi Hao made a bold decision. He would definitely cross the Magic Beast Forest and head to Tianyuan Academy. One must know that there was a proper official road to Tianyuan Academy. The journey was fast and there was no danger. And to go from the Magic Beast Forest to Tianyuan Academy, there were layers of danger along the way. All kinds of powerful magic beasts and dangers could happen at any time. Moreover, the journey was also greatly increased by several times. Originally, if a demon emperor rushed to Tianyuan Academy at full speed, it would take about 10 days to half a month. However, to go from the Magic Beast Forest to Tianyuan Academy, it would take at least 2 to 3 months. Moreover, if there was a slight mistake, the whole team might be wiped out. It was also possible that the challenge period would be over before they reached Tianyuan Academy. However, the Yi family wanted to train these disciples. One must know that these disciples were really talented at this moment. If they cultivated according to the rules, their cultivation might improve a lot after 3 months. After all, they were very talented. However, Yi Hao was not sure if he could win the competition. Thus, if he wanted to win the competition, he had to fully stimulate the potential of these people. He had to make these disciples suffer the most hardship and experience the tempering of life and death. It could be said that Yi Hao was taking an unconventional approach. However, he had no choice. This concerned the life and death of the First Academy. He had to do his best. Moreover, Yi Hao firmly believed that if he could bring his disciples to the Tianyuan Academy in 3 months, he would be able to do so. Then, these 20 disciples would undergo an earth-shattering change. "My lord, are you really going to do this?" The white dragon looked at Yi Hao worriedly. After all, Yi Hao's actions were too crazy. Even the people from Tianyuan Academy would be shocked if they knew what Yi Hao had done. "There's nothing we can do about it. We can only blame Tianyuan Academy for being too strong," Yi Hao said. Even though his disciples were far more talented than the disciples of the Heaven Branch, they were still far superior to the disciples of the Heaven Branch. However, at the same time, Tianyuan Academy's disciples were much stronger than his own. In the competition 3 months later, it would depend on one's strength and not talent. In the face of absolute strength, talent would not be able to help you win. "My lord, you have to be careful." The white dragon knew that Yi Hao was right. This was because in the First Academy, besides talent, the inner and outer yard disciples were inferior. Their strength and attacking skills were not as good as theirs. Hence, if they were to fight like this, the First Academy would definitely lose. It would be a crushing defeat. "Are you all ready? Once we enter the forest, you have to rely on your own strength to survive." Yi Hao looked at the 20 disciples. "We're ready," said the 20 disciples in a firm voice. This was because they were carrying the responsibility of the First Academy on their shoulders. If they lost, the First Academy would be finished. Moreover, they were the disciples of the First Academy. Naturally, they had to risk their lives to protect the First Academy. "All right, let's go," Yi Hao ordered. "Yes." Hearing Yi Hao's order, the disciples left quickly. "My lord!" Just as the disciples left, 10 powerful demon primes suddenly appeared. These demon venerables were specially gathered by Yi Hao from the patriarchs of the major clans. When the time came, they would be able to protect the disciples in the magical beast's forest. After all, the magical beast's forest was filled with danger. He only had 20 disciples, and he could not afford to lose any of them. However, with the protection of these 10 demon primes, Yi Hao believed that their lives would not be in danger when they entered the magical beast's forest. "Just hide in the dark. Without my orders, do not attack. At the same time, do not expose your whereabouts," Yi Hao instructed the disciples sternly. This was because Yi Hao wanted his disciples to experience life and death. They had to unleash their full strength. If they knew that there were experts protecting them in the dark, they would definitely not unleash their full strength and would not be able to unleash the disciples' potential. "Yes, my lord. My lord." Hearing Yi Hao's order, the 10 demon primes immediately nodded. "Remember who you are following." After Yi Hao finished speaking, he chased after the disciples. As for the 10 demon sovereigns, they looked at each other for a while before they chased after Yi Hao. "My lord, you have to promise us." Seeing that everyone had left, the white dragon anxiously prayed. "Don't worry, my lord is blessed by the heavens. He will definitely be safe. We will set off in 2 months and meet up with him then. I believe that at that time, my Lord will lead the disciples and appear in a powerful manner to crush the Tianyuan Academy. At that time, our Tianyuan Academy will definitely be famous. Unknowingly, many family heads appeared behind the white dragon and spoke with smiles. Although that was what everyone said, they couldn't hide the worry in their eyes. After all, when they heard Yi Hao's decision to cross the magical beast's forest, they were also shocked. They could only pray that Yi Hao and the others would arrive at the Tianyuan Academy safely. My lord, there are a few Demon King realm demonic beasts ahead. Yi Hao led 20 disciples into the magical beast's forest. They sped all the way and did not stop at the periphery. This was because the periphery was filled with weak demonic beasts that had no combat power at all. Even if they were killed by the disciples, it would be a waste of time. Now that they had reached the center of the periphery, Demon King realm demonic beasts would appear from time to time. You go and fight. Remember to leave your last breath. Yi Hao said to a second-order demon emperor disciple. Chapter 781. Seeing the second-order Devil King realm disciple rushing over, Yi Hao immediately brought the rest of the disciples to watch. 4 three-eyed giant wolves pounced on the disciple. 4 three-eyed giant wolves, 3 of them were 8th-order Devil Kings, and 1 of them was at the peak of the Devil King realm. It could be said that their strength had increased tremendously. Yi Hao knew that it wouldn't be easy for this second-order Devil Emperor realm disciple to kill the 4 three-eyed giant wolves. But as long as he was careful, he could do it. In the blink of an eye, the 4 three-eyed giant wolves surrounded the disciple. The 4 three-eyed giant wolves cooperated with each other and attacked the disciple from all directions. The disciple panicked when he was suddenly attacked by 4 three-eyed giant wolves. The rest of the disciples broke out in cold sweat for the disciple. Under the siege of 4 three-eyed giant wolves, the slightest carelessness could put his life in danger. Fortunately, the disciple's reaction was still agile even though he panicked. Rumbling sword. The disciple shouted and executed his martial skill. It's actually the Wang family's high-grade yellow-ranked martial skill, rumbling sword. I wonder what realm he has cultivated it to. Seeing the disciple's sword skill, many disciples recognized it. The long sword in the disciple's hand flashed with cold light, and at the same time, rumbling sounds could be heard in the air. Hearing the rumbling sounds, the 4 three-eyed giant wolves were obviously uncomfortable. They retreated one by one and howled even louder. His talent is really good. He actually cultivated the rumbling sword skill to the point of perfection. Everyone was shocked when they saw the disciple forcing the 4 three-eyed giant wolves back half a step. When the disciple saw the 4 three-eyed giant wolves, a smug smile appeared on his face. Be careful! Yi Hao suddenly let out a roar. Because when the disciple was feeling smug, the peak Devil King realm 3-eyed giant wolf pounced on the disciple's back. Hearing Yi Hao's warning, the disciple's heart skipped a beat and a bad premonition arose. Rumbling sword skill. The disciple executed the rumbling sword skill again and attacked his back. The disciple's sword directly pierced through the 3-eyed wolf's huge claw. The 3-eyed wolf let out a painful cry. Although the 3-eyed giant wolf was injured, the disciple's back was drenched in cold sweat. If not for Yi Hao's warning, or if he had reacted a little slower, the giant wolf's claws would have torn his neck apart. At this moment, this disciple did not dare to be complacent in the slightest, nor did he dare to be careless. He immediately followed up his victory and attacked the injured wolf. As for the injured 3-eyed giant wolf, his eyes were filled with unwillingness because he was so close to killing his disciple. However, due to its injuries, its fighting prowess had been greatly reduced. Before the disciples, it was unable to exert its full strength. Thus, the 3-eyed giant wolf, who was at the pinnacle of the Demon Lord realm, was completely crushed by the disciple. In the blink of an eye, It was already riddled with wounds and fell to the ground unwillingly. Yi Hao immediately went up and killed the three-eyed giant wolf, turning it into his own experience. Although there weren't many of them in front of Yi Hao, no matter how small a fly was, it was still meat. They couldn't let it go to waste. On the other hand, the disciples' biggest problem was solved. The remaining 3 rank 8 Demon Lord three-eyed giant wolves were even easier to deal with. In less than 3 minutes, the 3 three-eyed giant wolves were all lying on the ground. Yi Hao went up and ended their lives. How do you feel about your performance? Yi Hao looked at his disciple and asked. I'm not satisfied. The disciple immediately said when he recalled that he was almost killed by the giant wolves. Someone reminded you today. If you had faced the 4 three-eyed giant wolves alone today, I think you know what would have happened to you. Yi Hao said coldly. The disciple lowered his head with a look of remorse. And all of you remember this. No matter what, you must go all out against the enemy. Don't be careless. Yi Hao's gaze swept across the rest of the disciples. Yes. Everyone nodded quickly. After all, they had seen the battle just now. It was really thrilling. If Yi Hao's reminder had been too late, or if the disciple had reacted by himself, the one who would have died now would probably have been the disciple. Originally, I wanted to reward you with this high-grade profound class sword technique. However, I'm not satisfied with your performance. I hope you can continue to work hard. Yi Hao took out a martial technique and said. One had to know that this martial technique was chosen from the 100,000 martial techniques that the system had rewarded him when he established the academy. Yi Hao took time out to challenge 20 martial techniques that were most suitable for 20 people from the martial technique pavilion. However, Yi Hao did not intend to give it to them so early. High-grade profound class martial technique. Hearing Yi Hao's words, all the disciples' eyes lit up as they looked at the martial technique in Yi Hao's hand. One had to know that among the 20 people present, only a few of them had cultivated a profound rank cultivation technique, but it was only a low-level profound rank cultivation technique. As for high profound rank martial skills, even in the rain domain, they were rarely seen. Thus, to them, the allure of this martial skill was absolutely enormous. As for the disciple who did not have a second-order demon king, he was filled with regret at this moment. This was a high-grade profound class martial technique. It was much more powerful than his rumbling sword art. It was estimated that only a handful of disciples in the Tianyuan Academy could cultivate this high-grade profound class martial technique. If they could learn this martial technique, their combat strength would be greatly improved. 3 months later, their chances of winning the challenge would also increase. However, because of his mistake in the battle, he missed out on this opportunity. There is a third-order demon emperor demonic beast ahead. As long as you defeat it, this martial technique will belong to you. Yi Hao heard the hidden demon Venerable's voice in his mind, and said to the disciple who was full of regret. Really? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the disciple's regret disappeared immediately. He looked at Yi Hao excitedly. Although he was only a second-order demon emperor, he believed that as long as he gave it his all, it would not be a problem to kill a third-order demon emperor demonic beast. The demonic beast is coming. It's up to you now. Yi Hao heard the sound from afar and said to the disciple. Then, Yi Hao led everyone away from the disciple's side. Not long after, they saw a giant python that was more than 10 meters long. It smelled blood and approached the disciple. A third-order demon emperor crimson blood python. Seeing the demonic beast, the disciple did not dare to be careless. It was not only because of the martial technique. It was because the crimson blood python was definitely one of the top demonic beasts of the same level. Chapter 782. Without my orders, no one is allowed to attack. Yi Hao ordered sternly when he heard the disciples' words. What he wanted was to use demonic beasts and dangers to train his disciples. Using the third-order Devil Emperor's Scarlet Blood Python to temper Wang Kai was the most suitable choice. How could he allow his disciples to interfere? Yes. Everyone was wondering whether Wang Kai could defeat the Red Blood Python. But after hearing Yi Hao's order, they had to give up the idea of helping Wang Kai. The Red Blood Python was fighting with Wang Kai at this moment. As soon as the Crimson Blood Python appeared, it wanted to use its advantage in speed to bind Wang Kai. But Wang Kai was focused on dealing with the Red Blood Python. He immediately dodged the Red Blood Python's attack. The Red Blood Python's attack missed, and its body swept through 4 or 5 trees. The trees were smashed into pieces by the Red Blood Python's attack. It could be seen how powerful the Red Blood Python was. If Wang Kai was hit by the Red Blood Python, he would suffer. Seeing that its attack missed, the Red Blood Python became even more violent and its tail whipped toward Wang Kai fiercely. Rumbling Sword Technique. Seeing the Red Blood Python's tail whipping toward Wang Kai quickly dodged. At the same time, he seized the opportunity to attack the Red Blood Python with the Rumbling Sword Technique. Beautiful! Seeing that Wang Kai had dodged and attacked the Red Blood Python in one go, the disciples praised him excitedly. When Yi Hao saw this scene, he nodded in satisfaction. Wang Kai's long sword cut the Red Blood Python's huge tail. Apparently, the Red Blood Python didn't expect that Wang Kai would dodge its attack again and attack it. Therefore, the Red Blood Python didn't have time to dodge and a half-meter-long wound appeared on its tail. Hiss! The Red Blood Python was in pain and it screamed in anger. Wang Kai didn't dare to be careless and dodged again. As expected, the Red Blood Python was in pain and it went berserk. It opened its mouth and wanted to swallow Wang Kai. But Wang Kai had already dodged it. When the Red Blood Python's attack missed, Wang Kai's long sword stabbed the Red Blood Python's body again. The Crimson Blood Python didn't expect that its attack would miss again, and that it would be injured by Wang Kai again. It almost lost its mind. This Wang Kai is too freakish. When everyone saw Wang Kai's attack method, they were all extremely shocked. That was because the majority of them were from the various large clans. Normally, the various large clans would also hold competitions. Although Wang Kai's performance was not bad, it was definitely not that heaven-defying. He was completely suppressing the Crimson Blood Python. Everyone could see that the Crimson Python had already entered a frenzied state. It no longer cared about its injuries and only wanted to kill Wang Kai. Furthermore, the Crimson Blood Python's attacks were relentless. However, Wang Kai was able to nimbly dodge the Crimson Blood Python's attacks almost every time. Moreover, he was able to inflict large and small injuries on the Crimson Blood Python's body. The blood of the Crimson Blood Python had seeped into the ground. Did you see that? Wang Kai's speed is actually not faster than the Crimson Blood Python. What? Hearing this, everyone's gaze fell on Wang Kai and the Crimson Blood Python. How did Wang Kai's battle experience become so strong? You have to know that I defeated him when he fought with me previously. If he really has such strong battle experience, the one who will lose will definitely be me. A third-order Devil Emperor disciple said in shock. Yi Hao heard the shock of the disciples, but he only smiled and did not say anything. Of course, he knew why Wang Kai's battle experience had become so powerful. Naturally, it was related to the change in Wang Kai's talent. One had to know that the strength of a person's talent was also related to their strength. In the past, Wang Kai's talent was only low-grade, but now it was high-grade. In the past, Wang Kai's strength would definitely be average among cultivators of the same level and would not be too outstanding. But now, Wang Kai's high-grade talent could absolutely crush cultivators of the same level. He could even fight cultivators of a higher level. With a strong talent, going through battles would definitely increase one's battle experience by a large margin. Wang Kai's current battle experience was definitely far superior to when he fought against the three-eyed wolf. Therefore, in order to let these disciples display their talents, they had to go through battles and comprehend battle experience. This was also the reason why Yi Hao led the disciples through the magic beast forest. At this moment, Wang Kai's battle was becoming more and more skillful. On the other hand, the scarlet blood python was getting weaker and weaker, and its attacks were not as strong as before. Everyone could see that the scarlet blood python had no chance to make a comeback. However, the disciples felt that it was a little unrealistic. After all, they were still worried about whether Wang Kai could defeat the scarlet blood python or not. But the reality was that Wang Kai had crushed the scarlet blood python all the way. When Yi Hao saw that it was about time, he stepped forward and killed the scarlet blood python with a sword. He received a sum of experience, but it did not drop anything. "Lord, I have completed the mission," Wang Kai said excitedly with a smile on his face. Even now, Wang Kai felt that killing the scarlet blood python was a little unrealistic, because when he killed the scarlet blood python, except for the slight panic at the beginning, it was simply too easy. Moreover, he did not know why, but when he was fighting the scarlet blood python, he could always predict the scarlet blood python's next attack. It had to be known that this situation had never happened before. And when he was fighting the three-eyed giant wolf, he had this feeling. Otherwise, even if Yi Hao had warned him, he wouldn't have been able to react so quickly and deal with the sneak attack of the peak heavenly demon king three-eyed giant wolf. Could it be related to my breakthrough in talent? Wang Kai thought for a moment and suddenly thought of a possibility, because this was the only possibility that could cause such a huge change in him. He felt that his current battle experience was definitely several times stronger than before. "Wang Kai, you are really good. You have really exceeded my expectations. When did your battle strength become so strong? I really did not expect that your battle experience would be so abundant. Wang Kai, you have hidden it too deeply." Many disciples looked at Wang Kai and said one after another. Wang Kai scratched his head embarrassedly because he knew that he was definitely not so strong before. "Actually, my battle strength was not so strong before," Wang Kai said embarrassedly. "That's enough, Wang Kai. Stop pretending. We saw your battle just now." "That's right. The scarlet blood python is a peak existence among demonic beasts of the same level. Your cultivation level is lower than it, but you were able to crush it." "That's right. Even if I were the scarlet blood python, I would not be able to fight it as easily as you." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.